DMT is something we make in our own body. It's an endogenous chemical.
Has it changed your perception of what reality really is?
100%. Yeah. It's so much more real than this reality. It's like, it's so ineffable. There are no words that can describe it, but it's 1,000, maybe 1,000,000 times more real than this, in such a way that just coming back to this feels like everything is kind of claymation for a little while.
Claymation?
Or just fake, like a cartoon of some kind. It's just really low resolution. And I come back with no certainty about anything. And I think everybody comes back with that lack of certainty. You're not coming back and be like, I saw this exact thing and here's what it means and here's how the universe is created and all of that. But you go up there and you come back and you're like, something about this plane doesn't feel real anymore. And that is a permanent shift that's hard for some people to make. And you can't unsee that you were kind of able to poke your head out of the side door of the Truman Show and look out backstage for a little while.
So has it made you believe that this isn't real? This reality that we're living in now is not real?
We'd have to define real. But how would you define real?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's why I paused.
You can see it, you can touch it, you can measure it, you can taste it, smell it. Would that be real?
Do you think we're living in a simulation?
Then we have to define simulation. Because I think every society has this hubris of the universe is whatever's cool to us right now. Electricity came out, the universe was energy. Industrial Revolution came out, the whole universe was a giant machine. And right now everybody says, oh, that we just discovered computers, the universe must be a computer. It's like the hubris of every generation. What I mean by simulation, I think, like, is it rendered in some way by something? I study this stuff all day, every day of my life. And I think that the more discoveries we have in particle physics and quantum mechanics, the more they're proving the Hermetic principles right.
What's that?
These are the 7 ancient principles of this guy named Hermes Trismegistus, also known as Thoth, like an Egyptian guy. They're confused about his name. But he's like, he wrote these first 2 principles are the most important. The first one is all is mind.
All is mind.
All is mind. The all is mind. The universe is mental. And then the second one is as above, so below. And here's how I explained this to my son a couple of days ago. I said, have you ever had a dream where there's like a building in the dream? Maybe there's a house in front of you. And what are you looking at the house with? And he's like, well, my eyes. I said, why? Which eyes are they? Are they your eyes that you're seeing the house with? And he said, no, because you're imagining your own set of eyes to see the house with in your dream. Your eyes aren't there. Your body isn't there. So you're imagining the whole body and the world. And I said, what's the distance between you and that house in your dream? And he said, 30 feet. I said, what is the air made out of between you and the house? And he said, air. And I said, you have air in your dreams? Is it real air? And he said, no, it's my brain. And I said, so is there a distance between you and the house? He said, no. What's the house made out of? Me. What's the air made out of? Me. The entire thing is me. The ground I'm standing on, the house, the clouds in the sky. So in a dream, you can verifiably prove that something is real. You can test it, you can touch it, and all of that, and the perception of it is very much real. So the theory now, and I don't have any certainty about this, but one interesting theory that I've heard from many different neuroscientists is like, if we look at as above, so below, like a universe spins like a DNA double helix. You can zoom in on a human eyeball and it looks the same as a nebula. What if dreams are this level 1, and this is like level 2 of that, where we're hallucinating distance. We're hallucinating, and I think that whatever the case is, I have no idea. I have no theories about it myself. But whatever the case is, I do think that separation is the greatest lie ever told to the entire world. Of like you are separate from that person, like this, you are separate from this. And how people say, I need to go spend time in nature. Like, you are nature. Like, that's That's part of who you are. You're made out of that stuff. You're made out of that dirt. So I think the illusion of separation is the one thing that I think will help a lot of people. And that's why psychedelics can really just rewire somebody's brain so fast. It just deletes that separation.
Yeah. Right on. How'd you like that little tidbit? Isn't it interesting? Isn't it so interesting? That dude, there's actually someone in my team told me today and sent me a link to it was like a 2-hour interview of Chase, this former Navy expert. And he went under intravenous DMT for, I think it was something like 4 or 5 hours. Most cases are somewhere around 8 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, meaning most people that use that drug, it's about an 8 to 10 minute high. And this guy had it administered intravenously for 5 hours. And isn't it so incredibly interesting that one of the first aspects of his experience that he compares it to is Hermeticism. I mean, the very subject we were studying I think it was about a year ago. I mean, I dedicated weeks to it. And isn't it amazing that the very thing he comes out talking about is Hermeticism and the lie that is separation? How many times have I told you guys about the lie that is separation? And isn't it so amazing that the guy who actually went into the hallucinogenic space comes back with that message? And that seems to be a common theme amongst people who engage that quote unquote alternate world. And another thing that I thought was interesting about what he said is he said that place that he went to was so much more vivid and real than actual quote unquote reality, which ties directly into Jonathan Ott's quote that hallucinogenic drugs are actually anti-hallucinogenic, meaning they rip you out of the hallucination that is the here and now that you and I experience, and that it puts you into a space that is much more real than this. And isn't it amazing? I mean, I don't even know if that guy's ever heard of Jonathan Ott. I think Jonathan actually passed away not too long ago, but I'm not even sure that guy's ever heard of him. And he's saying the same kind of lingo that John was saying, which is the same kind of lingo that McKenna would talk about, which is the same kind of experience that I personally had. Some of it through hallucinogens and then some of it through the fight with cancer. And isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? The common theme, the common thread that undergirds all these different people, unrelated people who've had this experience, is that the idea of separation is a lie, that the world outside or past this world is much more real. And one of the ways that we can amalgamate, come into alignment with, coalesce with that other world is through Hermeticism. I mean, can you believe that? Let's go to chat. Let's see what you guys are doing. What is going on? How's it going? Let's see who's here tonight. Hey, hi, Verbal. Yeesh, I think the guy had been watching Chuck Saturday Night Live. Yeah, isn't it wild? It's so wild, the common themes. I had another person who's in chat send me an email about an hour ago, and he said, hey, I found this person who is talking a similar language as you. and are seeing this as a transformative, human emergent experience. And if you believe in the doomer stuff, this isn't a human emergent experience if you're a doomer. This is a human ending experience if you're a doomer. But lo and behold, the psychonauts are coming back from their journeys with a deeper understanding than the doomers. That feels good. That's amazing. Now you are an unusual person. You're probably less than 0.1% of the world. What's up, Fortune? How's it going? Did you see Miss Redhead? She's usually here. Here she is. Hello. He stopped having seizures after. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. The collective, the human collective before us never had, or very rarely had, the opportunity to do that, unless you were in Greece and you were going up to the entheogen work that they were doing in the hills there in Mesopotamia. Yeah. Look into his story. It's amazing. Okay. Here. Hi, 9mm. A while back, I was debating someone on Twitter and they called me a hermeticist. Yeah. This was before I really knew anything about the ideas of hermeticism. That's amazing. But you see how good it is, how good hermeticism does, how good a job it does, which is why we spend a lot of time in it. Bringing an understanding of the material world into a spiritual experience, literally equating material to spirit. It is such an opposite view to what is taught in, say, Gnosticism, in that the world is a degradation. It's a experience of filth, that the originator of the world is Leviathan, and that we're all in this filth. Whereas it's this totally different perspective when you approach it from this hermeticism type of idea, in integration rather than rejection, conflict, fighting, separation, full integration. And it makes so much more sense, and it falls directly in line with the way we take as human beings. We're integrators. We're not fighters. You're taught to be racist. You're taught to fight. You're taught to hate others. You're not like that. You're not naturally inclined to being that way. And Hermeticism is a great way to begin to understand this from a very tangible sense, rather than sort of the woo-woo sense. And the other day when I mentioned that there is no woo-woo, I was meaning in the sense of Zen. Zen doesn't use or utilize any woo-woo. It's direct pointing. It's no messing around. It's direct pointing at the mind. Whereas Hermeticism is more of a woo-woo type of approach, even though it is based in many ways in science and experience. It's very much woo-woo. I mean, if you look at its way that it talks about how the soul passes through the galaxy and falls into the planetary system, and then is affected as an electromagnetic impulse or wave, is affected by the planets, which put their resonation into your soul as it is passing through and becoming. It's moving into the world of the material world from the void, where we all come from, the void. And there's a impression that is made on the soul, resonating impressions that are made on the soul as it passes through the planetary system. This is very woo-woo idea. And as your soul, depending on the time of year that you're born, that's why your birth date is so important to astrology, depending on when you were born, determines the locations of the planets and their resonations, their triads, right? Which harmonize you, which resonate you. And you in many ways accommodate those resonances as you come into form, which is why, if, say, you're like a Gemini like me, you're heavily influenced by Mercury, the communicator, the one that is closest to the sun. And so if you're a Gemini, typically you're a really good communicator. You understand the deeper knowledge and sense because your planetary, your main planet, is so close to the sun, God's sun, you could say. And this is bringing about, the sun is bringing about light, life, energy, emergence knowledge, wisdom, these kinds of things. The stuff that feeds you, that feeds your soul. And so a Gemini, whose main planet is Mercury, is very naturally in tuned with the resonations of Mercury, the communicator, the first one to get light, to receive light from the sun. And so when you're born at specific times in the year, you'll be resonating with certain planets. Maybe it's Jupiter, jovial Jupiter, opportunity knocks. Maybe it's Saturn, the authority, the ruler. You know, I think Capricorn is in the planet Saturn, the authority, the one with the largest orbit, right? That rules, quote unquote, over the other planets in their resonance, a master in a sense, you know? And these kinds of resonant frequencies affect you as a soul. And when you incarnate on this planet, according to Hermeticism, your personality incorporates your personality that was essentially resonated into you by the forces of the planetary system, become manifest as your personality, as your take, your natural interests, your inclinations, what makes you resonate, what makes you vibe, you know. And then that's why you vibe in certain ways that other people born at other times of the year don't, you know. It's magical. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love talking about that stuff. Hey, what's going on, biker chick? What is happening? Hey, Fortune, I still haven't had time, unfortunately, to listen to your recording that you sent me. I don't know why, but yours and many people in chat, Obi was another one I was bummed, are going into my junk mail, and I didn't know it. And so I'll go back and I'll check junk mail from time to time, even though I've written you, I've had correspondence with you, and I've told my machine to like you and to not throw your stuff in the junk. It still keeps doing it. I don't know why. And it does the same for Obi, because I've had the same thing happen to Obi. So I replied to Obi and I replied to you today. I hope you got my message. Yeah, the connections are incredible, Shan. 100%. Yeah, Netherlands. Heck yeah, Marlowe's. Yeah. Netherlands in the house. Love it. Well, my friend, that really depends on your experience with psychedelics. Do you have experience with mushrooms? Do you have experience with salvia divinorum, maybe? Do you have experience with ayahuasca? That would be another one. And these kinds of things would determine how much you can take. It's endogenous to the body. It's not risky. Like some of the adrenal drugs that are out there, you don't want to get involved with, highly addictive. But DMT is natural to your body. You make it every day. It's what causes you to dream. It comes out of your pineal gland, believe it or not. And it is a mediator. DMT is a mediator between the material world and the spirit world. And this is why people who try the DMT experience come back with such radical notions, because it rewires your brain so that you're no longer bound down to the material world you were programmed into as a child. You no longer are bound to that, because DMT opens up your neural pathways so you can actually think differently. The best description I've ever thought of is a forest. And let's say like you live in the forest, and every day you go to a certain place to get your water, and every day you go to a certain place to hunt, and every day you go to a certain place to sleep, and every day you go, you know, whatever. And you develop pathways in the forest where you're living naturally, because you're always going to be going to those places in your day, your daily, the place you go to the bathroom, you're going to have a trail going there too, right? Well, think of those pathways and trails the same way as you would think of thought pathways in your brain. And when you're programmed, when you're oriented as a child to this sort of Aristotelian logic, A is A, and you're programmed with certain ways of thinking about the world, your parents will tell you, now this is the God you should be talking to. So if you're in the Middle East, your parents are going to raise you and say, Islam is our God. Muhammad is the messenger of God. And we listen to and adhere the tenets of these forms, right? And if you grow up in say Berkeley, California, and your dad or your mom is a professor at Berkeley, you're going to be raised in atheism, and you're going to be raised with the idea that there is no God, that the idea of God is nonsense, and then people who believe in that kind of idea are out there. They should be based in science. You know, the professor at Berkeley is going to integrate hardcore science into their children, right? And then if you grow up in the Bible Belt and you're in Tennessee, you know, your dad's a pastor, you're going to be raised in the Western programming, which would be our God is not Allah, our God is Yahweh. Our messenger, the God we worship, the mediator is Jesus. And these are the forms that you worship, right? So a person goes in and takes DMT, and all these pathways of thought that they've established in their brain since they were a little tiny child are obliterated. In the same way, you wake up one morning living in the forest and the entire forest, let's say, has burned down or has been harvested. And all your cues, your pathway, the trees you looked at, okay, I go left here, I go right here, your familiarities that have guided you to these locations you've always gone to, living there in the forest, are gone. And all of a sudden, the landscape is cleared out. Cleared out. Your normal is gone. This is what happens in DMT. Your normal thinking processing. So when you refer to God in your normal thinking, you no longer automatically go to Allah. You no longer automatically go to Jesus. You no longer automatically go to atheism. You don't do that as your go-to, your auto. It's gone. It's gone. The DMT wipes it out. Just like if you're living in the forest is wiped out while you're sleeping. And so what happens is when you wake up, when you come out of that space, or I would say when you walk into that space, you then can choose for yourself what you're going to do. You make your own decisions based on your own discernment, your own experience, and you're finally free to do that because you have released, you have disentangled yourself from your normal, the way you were brought up, the way you've always thought about, quote unquote, the spiritual thing, the way you've always taken spiritually. You move to your authentic take, your authentic resonance that you were born with when you incarnated here from this planet. That's you refer back to that space. You're authentic. And so this is why he said in the video, it's so much more real. Because your authentic isn't your programming, the way you were taught to think about God, the way you were taught to think about the world. Your authentic is the way you were born. In other words, no thought. In other words, no preconceived ideas. No go-to. If you got to go to the bathroom, if you want to have a thought, you got to take a different path because everything's been wiped out. And so you relearn the world. You relearn what it means to be a human being because your identity is gone. Because you're no longer a quote unquote Christian. You're no longer a quote unquote atheist. You're no longer a quote unquote Muslim, Islamic. You don't subscribe to that anymore because that's not your authentic. That's a social order. And when you take the hallucinogenic drug, it rips you out of those orders. That's social order. And you become a nature creature rather than a social creature, right? Because when you're raised in this is how you think about God, this is how you think about the world, this is how this is who you are. That's a social institution, and that's not what you are. You're a nature creature. You're not a social creature. And hallucinogenic drugs teach you this. The mushroom, the DMT, right? The ayahuasca teaches you this. It shows you this deeper truth, your authentic self. That's one of the things that's going to be happening here with the Great Awakening, with disclosure. And the way people have always thought the world and the way we came about and where we are in the universe and what this all means. See, all of that's going to change. The Great Awakening is very much a hallucinogenic experience. It very much is. because it pulls you out of your norm. This is actually an ingenious beginning to this talk. It pulls you out of your norm. The Great Awakening does. Because every day you're hearing stuff on the internet, you're seeing stuff that your friends, or you're hearing stuff that your friends are saying. They're showing you facts that you've never seen. And every day you're like, what the heck? The world that I was living in just last week doesn't even exist anymore. I totally have a different understanding of the politics of the world, of the science of the world, if we're alone or not, if there are aliens. My understanding this week is totally different than last week, right? And that's just happening naturally. You're not controlling that. It's happening to you naturally because you're returning to your authentic sense. You're returning to your authentic self. That's what's happening, right? And so the Great Awakening is just like the experience Chase described at the beginning video when I started tonight. It's going to be the same thing. And some people are okay with that, and some people are not okay with that. Some people are not okay with having the world, their rug ripped out from under them. They're really not okay with that. And it takes groups like what we're doing and educating yourself to be able to become okay with changing your course, re-steering your life telos, your vector. Your perspective is changing, and therefore your course is changing, because the forest is dissolving, the normal forest that you have been walking through. That's the Maya that confuse you and keep you from experiencing your authentic self. And so the whole point of the Great Awakening is for you to experience authenticity. Imagine that. For you to experience transparency, the way of the master, seeing through the master. The Great Awakening is your experiencing becoming the master. That's the Great Awakening. We are all becoming the masters of our world, of the reality as it presents. And we are coalescing together as a collective in this process, because that's how human beings grow. We grow together. We grow through and with one another. That's why we're better off, right? We're better off combining our brain power together to grow than we are just sitting by ourselves in a room, isolated, separated, not thinking for ourselves, or I should say just thinking all by yourself. It's important to coalesce and resonate with like-minded thinkers that surround you. And non-like-minded thinkers that surround you, because this builds a dynamism in your life of information, knowledge, and wisdom and light. Different layers are rendered to you, and this is how you awaken. That's a natural part of the process. Right on, intrepid drums. Heck yeah. Hello from Oklahoma. Heck yeah. Hello, Priscilla. Awesome. Welcome. Hi, Miss Redhead. Hi, April Kitten. Welcome. Hey, how's it going? Matt, what's up, buddy? Ready for smoking good time with you, NatureCreatures? Heck yeah, Matt. I've got some good stuff for you guys coming up. What's up, Bob? Thanks for your email this week, buddy. I really appreciate it. It was great hearing from you, my friend. Yeah, Peru. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Here we come, South America. Heck yeah. How we doing? Yeah, we are absolutely not. You're taught to be. You're taught to be one. That's how that happens. That's what's so sad. We're taught to be one. Nice, Gemini. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Chuck, I have myself a little wine in him at this time. You guys are crazy. Come on now. What is happening? Yeah, I bet it did. Okay. So, how do you line up your birth date to the planets? Well, you'll have to start studying some astrology, and it has to do with your main planet aligning with the sun, and there's a whole geometry that goes along with it. I used to be more of a student of astrology and tarot, but I found that they were too good. And that's the honest truth. I found that they were so accurate in how they understood and predicted your energy and its directions and directives and so forth. They're so good at it that it started to render to me more than I wanted to know. And I decided that I wanted to live a more spontaneous life, and I purposefully began to stop engaging it because it was so good at predicting what was coming. And I like living a life of non-prediction. I like finding out as it comes. I don't like finding out early. And, you know, at times, you know, it was so accurate that at times I would misinterpret what the cards or what the astrology was saying for me. And that would then screw things up because I misinterpreted it. And so I would begin to lean my energy in a direction that was unfit for my place. And so I've really just found that in life, and I need to get my hands out. I need to stop planning and start really living rather than trying to plan life, organize life, and set myself up. Rather just live in a constant state of preparation, meaning being present, fully present, not attached to anything, not regretting tomorrow or the past, yesterday, and not predicting tomorrow, but being fully present to now. And I found that when I involved myself too much in astrology and tarot, that I was pulling myself out of the now and doing too much study in my past energy and too much concern in my coming energies. That was just my experience. But yeah, I found that it was just too accurate. It's too good. It's incredible. I mean, it's beyond belief how accurate that stuff is. It's beyond belief. I'll tell you what tarot really helped me with, though, was understanding who I was. Tarot did a good job of that. Tarot was really good at pinpointing my life card, my becoming card, my what I would become if I fully realized who I was. I went from a pain card to an emergent card. I can't remember the names of these things, but I went from strength. That's what it was. I went from the strength card as my soul card. That's my soul card, as the strength card. And then my emergent card is star. I mean, think of this. So my main card, what is going to be the theme of your life until you awaken, Chuck? That was my strength card. That's what you come here with. That's the goods you come here with. That's going to be the hardcore Muladhara, your life core card, your born with card. That's what you bring to the theater, your life. Okay. And then there's an emergent card. There's an emergent card that tarot lays out. It says, okay, listen, if you carry out the strengths and aspects and vitalities, as well as face the adversity that go along with the strength card, if you integrate that into your life and utilize that and become essentially that, you will transcend. You will see through the master, which in my case is the strength card, and you will become the master, which in my case was the star card. And if you look at the star card, it has an uncanny resemblance to my life. It's actually quite weird, meaning incredibly woo-woo. The picture is this figure, this female figure that has her foot in the water and her other foot on the ground. Now, these two things are opposites in the material hermetic sense. Okay. And what this means is the foundation that she's standing upon, these are what she has mastered. So this individual, when they experience transcendence, are going to master the water world and the earthen world. They will be a master of these two things. And what you see the figure doing in the star card is she's pouring out water. And this is the picture of the person who is pouring out knowledge, wisdom, connectivity, understanding, beauty, light into the world. because they have mastered water and earth, these two main functions of the Hermetic astrologic understanding of the world. And then the Pleiades is in the background, which shows that the atmosphere that this individual is high in the celestial realm, meaning high vibration. And they're pouring out love, which is water, onto the earth, which is compassion, which is love, which is understanding, which is the fruits, the gifts that we give one another as we transcend. And this card, the star card, has pointed out what happened when I went live. When I went live here and when I began my studies and releasing these studies like the Khazarian Mafia, this is portending, this is bringing about love to the world because it's knowledge, it's connectivity. And when other people are experience the videos that I put out, the resonance that I put out, it harmonizes and resonates them into a higher plane. This is what happens when you watch like the God Eaters or my nature series. It's going to render to you connections and patterns and light that will bring you into a higher resonant field. And this is just being exposed to my energies. And because I have moved into the star card, you're moving into a frequency of love, becoming, acceptance, nurturance, transcendence, lucidity, these kind of things. I have become the embodiment of that card. And this live work that we do, the Zoom work that we do, the logo work that I'm doing, the lives that I am involved in saving, these are all part and parcel of the star card. The pouring out of your love and wisdom. And this is what will happen to you. When you find out your tarot card, your birth card, and your emergent card, you will find that if you become a master of your birth card, your soul card, you will become your emergent card without even trying. Without even trying. I found out my emergent card after I had already begun the emergent process, and I saw it, and I was just like, well, that makes sense. That's what I'm becoming. This brings sense into your life, sensibility. And when your life makes sense to you, you make a lot more sense to your environment because you're in that sense vibration. And when you surround yourself with people, the sense, the resonance that you carry and bring to the world will resonate others. That's why some people get around my work and hate it, and other people get around my work and love it. It's a vibration thing. And some people resonate with the vibrations that I offer to the world. And that's the deeper understanding that's in the world and available all the time. And we've just been, here we go, back to the beginning, what we talked about. You've been programmed. And you've been programmed in a way that has so discombobulated your natural emergence that you're no longer naturally emerging. You have become a social creature. So there's no emergence left for you. You're just going to further and further move up the hierarchy in your social institution to which you have given yourself, to which you have handed your sovereignty. And because you have handed your sovereignty to a social institution, you have rejected your nature creature contract. That's what's happened. And until you reject your social contract and reinvest in your nature contract, your nature career, your nature self, until you invest in that, you will remain locked, unemergent, a conflict-oriented, dualistically obsessed individual. And the great awakening, higher resonant frequency available to you will no longer be available because you checked out. You turned in your sovereignty. You gave away your sovereignty to a social order. And since nature is merciless, nature says, okay, pal, if you want to live the life of a social creature and align yourself to a social order and have that experience for your life and never know what it's like to actually be a nature creature, have at it. Have at it. You get what you want. Nature is an equal opportunity provider. And if you insist on a social world, a conflict-oriented world, a religious world, an atheistic world, if you insist on that, by God, that's what you're going to get. because you get what you deserve. You get what you want. Nature delivers on the money every single time. And if you tell nature, hey, I want to be a social institution, I want to give away my sovereignty to the Catholic Church, I want to give my sovereignty away to the Islamic belief system, I want to give my sovereignty away to science and being an atheist, by God, nature says, here you go. It's all yours. You can have it. And you will die unaware of any other institution but the social one you gave your life to. You'll die ignorant. You'll die not knowing any other world but the one you were programmed into. That's called living the life of a bot. And if that's the life you want, that's the life that nature's going to give you. So this is why I do my shows on Saturday nights and we do our Zooms on Sunday, is to render a vibration that is cohesive to a higher and higher resonant frequency than what any social order, social institution can offer you. That's my role. That's our role. That's what we're doing here. Raising the vibration, moving right into the Great Awakening with aplomb, with joy, with happiness, contentment and fulfillment without a worry or anxiety in the world. Because you know we are, as a collective, moving to a higher and higher frequency. Right on. What a great introduction. How we doing? Let's go to the bottom of comments since I got caught up. Okay. Yeah, my wife is a Taurus. Taurus, the bull, that's a tough character. That person has strong will, a strong inclination to action. Taurus is a earth sign, and Taurus is all about experiencing the beauty and wonder that is the material world. The Taurus celebrates nature. The Taurus celebrates the ephemerality that is living life. Yeah, my wife is a Taurus. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Chuck, I want to mention to you here that my 15-year-old son kind of moved away from Christianity all by himself. That's awesome. I'm so stunned and happy, grateful. And I want to tell you, that's awesome. Way to go, Marlos. Keep being that really awesome influence for your son. That's awesome. Keep being an awesome influence. Yeah. Hear, hear. How we doing? Yes, they are very protective. They are very protective. How's your dog doing, Rip Me? How's your dog doing? Awesome. Yeah, my wife is extremely protective of me. You just asked Jenny. She's very protective of me. Astrocartography. Can you tell me what that is? Astrocartography. Is that photography? Astrocartography. I wish I knew Latin better. I could get that. The astro would be celestial. Graphy would be study or bio. But what's cart in Latin? Elucidate for me, friend. Is there any other way to have the forest cleared? Pain, Bob. Pain will do it. Impossible circumstance so that you cannot progress forward in a sensible way. This is called the unthinkable decision. Every person who has every person that experiences an impossible task in life where no decision you make is a good one. You have to make the bad decision, meaning you don't have any other choice. Your life choices or whatever life circumstances have led you to a rock and a hard place, and no choice you take is amenable. No choice you take. It would be like, well, heck, I'll use my own example. I'm in the church, I'm serving the church, and I've been a Christian for 40 years. Okay, been a Christian for 40 years, and I find out through the hard way that I can no longer stay sane, and I can no longer progress forward in life, spiritually and mentally, if I stay in the religion. So I have a choice now. I become a fraud, and I'm a coward, and I stay in the church, and I fake it, and I act like I'm still there and I'm doing the deal. And then that way I keep all my friends, I keep my go-to, I don't knock out the forest, right? And I stay in my go-to, living in denial as a fraud, okay? That's choice one, okay? Choice two, leave all your friends. Leave all the familiarity of your family. Leave God as you understand God. Leave the religion and all the securities that it offers you. Abandon the eternal security to which you have always moored yourself. Okay? That's decision two. Okay? So I'm not going to be a coward. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm going to stay true to what I understand and know now. So I have to leave. I have to leave. And what's that going to cost me? It's going to cost me my life. And then if I stay, if I choose the cowardly way, the hypocritical way, to fake it and act like I'm a Christian, act like I believe like all my Christian friends, right? Become a living fraud. That's option two. But there's no other choice. You have learned too much. You've seen too much. I saw too much. Can't stay. Seen too much. Seen too much. And that person now is a problem. They got a problem. Because one choice requires them to be a coward. The other choice requires them to abandon life as they know it. That'll clear your forest, Bob. That experience will clear your forest. Because only the courageous one will leave the normalcy that they have been brought up and trained into. And the courageous one, this is why nature will render her bounty to you if you act courageously. But if you act as a fool, meaning you not a fool, but if you act as a fraud, you act as a coward in a cowardly way, guess what nature's going to deliver to you for the coward? Right? Realizing that you're a fake and how terrible it is to think that way about yourself. Realizing that all your friends are friends with a fraud, and the guilt and the horrible feeling about yourself that goes along with acting as a coward, acting as a hypocrite, right? That'll also teach you. You live like that long enough, you'll eventually break down. You'll eventually say, I can't live like this any longer. Or you'll completely numb out and become an addict and just live in denial, deluding yourself in alcohol and drug use so that you don't have to realize the coward that you are living as a hypocrite. You see what I'm saying? This is what the Great Awakening does to people. This is what it does. Forces them into that kind of space. Whereas if I want to grow and raise my frequency, I have to leave. I have to leave my normalcy. I have to leave my go-to. I have to leave all my securities. I have to leave all this, all these friends and families that I've made in this delusion called Christianity, called Islam, called atheism, right? Called Gnosticism, called agnosticism, right? Pick your poison. The true human being will come to that place no matter what they have subscribed to, because it's a place of stagnancy. And you're a human. You're a human being. You're an organism. And when an organism stops complexifying, stops growing, it becomes stagnant. And guess what happens? It gets diseased. Becomes diseased. That's the disease of the coward. The one who knows a higher truth and higher principle and chooses not to pursue it, to remain a coward so that they don't unsettle their life too much. Live the cowardly life. That's the life that nature's going to hand you. You're going to die empty. You're going to die knowing I chose poorly. I chose not to do the adult choice, which is to leave my upbringing, leave the way my parents raised me, and think for myself. That's what adults do. That's what adults do. Children remain the programming that they were programmed into as a child. They don't grow. That's why I say often, if you subscribe to any religion, any Western religion, you remain a child spiritually, because you never think for yourself. You always take the tack, the hand-me-downs from the authorities. And because you hand your sovereignty to the authority, meaning that they're now your authority, you're not your own self-authority, you're handing your authority to someone else. You see, that's the life of a coward. And you will have the feelings of emptiness, lack, stagnancy that go along with choosing to be a coward. And that's it. And you'll become angry, frustrated, addicted, because you as a human being cannot live with yourself being and choosing to be a coward and stay sane. You're going to lose it. You're going to lose it. Enough said. Here we go. Down to the bottom. Yeah, I did. Hope y'all got them. They are awesome. Yeah. Okay. Mel, how are you doing, love? Stacy asked about you today in email. I'm concerned about you. Hope you're okay. Haven't seen you in Zoom, so hope you're okay, love. We are meeting, just so that you guys know, we meet at Zoom now on Sundays. Okay, Sundays at 1 o'clock. Okay, that's when we meet on Zoom. It's no longer Friday. We don't meet on Fridays anymore. We meet on Sundays at 1. And if you would like to come to Zoom, okay, shoot me an email. I've actually got a new email. It's chuck@naturecreature.net. We'll do all those announcements next week, but it's chuck@naturecreature.net. And you can send me an email. Maybe it'll get to that email better than it's been getting to mine, because when I receive requests for Zoom, sometimes people's emails go in the trash and I never get them. But anyway, just so that you know, I send invitations out typically Wednesday, Thursday. I'll send out the invite. I sent those out this week, and y'all who are part of Zoom should have gotten those invites. And I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Sunday at 1 o'clock, my time, Seattle time, Pacific Coast time. So make your adjustments so that you're there on time. Would love to see you, Mel. Would love to see you. Let's see here. Hey, Chuck, the Great Awakening not only makes you question what is truth, yes, but whether you have the strength to lead and not follow. Yeah. Yeah. To lead or just be. Don't even necessarily have to be a leader, to lead and simply be. Maybe you're the type of person who you're just going to have influence on just 1 or 2 people around you, which is fantastic. Maybe you're that kind of person. You're very introverted. Maybe you just have maybe 1 or 2 friends, or maybe no friends. And your interactions are just people maybe at the grocery store, or their interactions with maybe the poker group you meet with once a month, or the interaction you have whenever. The stuff that you did, and you don't have any set and steady friends. That's the way my life is. My friendships are people that I just interact with on the internet and around the local town here. But I don't have any like really deep, hardcore friends. And that's just the way it rolls. But I'm leading in the sense of I'm putting together all this material that I'm sending you guys in hopes to shine light to a larger space than just my local here. Okay. How we doing? I got a lot to cover tonight. We should probably get rolling. We've been doing this almost an hour now. Doing like the great benefits, do like Jupiter, Venus, doing pretty good, expansive, and lucky astrocartography. Check it, it's real. I will. I'll definitely look into it. I don't like prediction models because they're too good. And I don't like knowing what's coming. I don't like knowing, okay, a big bad thing's coming or a great, awesome thing's coming. I like to be surprised. I don't want to know. Okay. Yeah, for sure. For sure. We miss you, Mel. Please come to Zoom. It would be great to see you. Okay, so let's take a moment now and let's move to some little couple of announcements I need to show you guys. First of all, I have great news, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, exactly. This is it, Fortune. You nailed it. You're exactly right. Okay, I have great news, ladies and gentlemen. My website begins next week on the 17th. Sunday, the 17th of May. Are you ready? I'll explain this in a minute. I'll show this assignment. But that's when my website is launching. We are officially launching on May the 17th. Okay? We're going to meet for Zoom at 1 o'clock on that Sunday. And then when Zoom ends, Pete is going to open the doors and you guys can go check it out. I've got 2 members are going to get 2 new videos that I've made and are ready to go. I'm going to be playing shorts from those videos to try and encourage people to become members. The membership is going to support my work. It's going to support me monthly so that I'm able to provide all that I'm providing. And then I've also got a merch line. And my merch line is cherry. Look, I got one of the bottles this week. Float like clouds, flow like water. This is one of my bottles, and they are legit. This is stainless steel. Look how shiny it is. This is all stainless steel, and it's insulated. And this is just one of 3 bottles. And what's really cool is these are my original designs here, and it's not a sticker. These are actually printed. These are actually printed. And meaning there's no seam. Look, there's no seam. It's not a label. It's a print. Look, look here. It's almost like a dip. Look at the top. That's not a sticker. Legit, dude. And this is insulated bottles. I got 3 of them. Check it out. And then this came to this week. This is the blanket I made. Check it out. It turned out great. It's actually woven. Look. How legit is that? It's actually woven. Look at the threads. You can see the threads where it's woven. That's not dyed or printed. That's woven threads. Look. You can see the back. Look at the back. It's woven in there. Look. Totally legit, man. Completely legit. And this sweatshirt, this is the swag. This is one of the sweatshirts that I'll be selling. Check it out. And there's the back. Yeah? Okay. So that's coming. That will launch next week on the 17th, Sunday the 17th. And I've got like 40 products. We'll add a few, but we got t-shirts. We got all kinds of stuff. I just haven't received the t-shirts yet. I'll have them next week. I'll be able to show them to you. But you can see, it's fantastic. And they're printed. It's not a stick-on. This isn't stick-on. And so it will age gracefully. It will fade. It won't flake like the stick-on stickers they typically have for t-shirts. These aren't stick-on. It's actually printed. So it's legit. It won't flake in your dryer. It's totally legit, bro. It's totally legit. And the blanket is awesome. I'm so excited. So anyway, all that's coming up next week on the 17th. And then here is the info on the membership. Okay, so at the top here, this is the slide you want to see. This starts next week. Okay, we're going to have Zoom for free next week for the last time, and then it will be for members. Zoom will be for members. Okay, so what's going to be free? Top here where it says free stuff. Okay, so my current library of videos and all live recordings will remain free and available on my website, okay? And at YouTube, okay? You'll be able to watch all that stuff. There's a membership section of the site as well as a free section of the site. And so these videos will be available for free at my site. And I've got them all organized, and I'm working on all the titling and stuff. I got about half of them titled. And I'm getting that all organized so that anyone who wants to see my work won't have to go to YouTube and just see all of this crazy amount of videos. Everything will be all organized at the site. And the stuff that's on my YouTube already is all free, and it'll stay free. Okay? Also, I'll be continuing these Saturdays every day at 5 for free. They won't require membership. So I will continue my presence on YouTube, X, Rumble, Instagram, all these kind of things. I'm going to stay there for free every week on Saturdays. Okay, every week. And I'll be doing this is the kind of thing that'll be going on Saturdays. Saturdays is going to move away from doing a series, and it's going to move more into a conversation about the current. Right here, Chuck's Current. A conversation with the current society, relevant society, right where we're at now. So nothing gets dated. It'll always be fresh baked every Saturday, showing up here at 5 o'clock and having a dialogue with you guys and talking about life, talking about just questions that come up. And as you can see, just from a couple questions, I mean, we can eat up an hour before you know it. So that stuff will stay free. Okay. And then the membership is $9 a month or $99 a year. You save a month by buying a year at once. Okay. It's $9 a month, and the $9 will include obviously the free stuff. And then the first of all, Chuck's Classroom, which is going to be a video I'm going to make every month, 1 or 2 videos I'll make in my car. And I'll be talking about subject matter that comes up in the Zoom. So when we have our conversations on the Zoom and all that kind of stuff, there's going to be stuff that comes up that people will have an even further inquiry about. I'll take those questions and I'll answer them in the car and make a new video, and those will be available for members, and it will be an ongoing fresh baked video available, 1 or 2 videos every month for the members. Okay, that'll be, again, more relevant conversation. And then I'll be doing what's called Chuck's curriculum, which is this blue part here. I just love the colors on the slide. I love this slide. I'm so happy I was able to make this slide. It looks so good. I'm really happy with it. Okay, so the curriculum is going to be my long form studies. And those are going to move entirely to standalone videos. I won't be presenting that stuff live anymore. The live stuff will be non-series oriented. That's what's happening on Saturdays. Chuck's Current, they're in the pink. Okay. So my long-term series work is going to be like the KM, Nature as Identity, the Zen series that we've been doing, Astrotheology. Those are series, and I will move those entirely to just doing the series and releasing those to members only. The rest of Zen, the rest of what we're doing in Zen and so forth is not going to be available for free. It's going to move to the paid site because I've got probably 3-6 months left in Zen. There's no way I can sustain that. I'm going to move the Saturdays to more focused study of the relevance of what's going on. And then my long-term Chuck's curriculum is going to be the stuff that's kind of timeless. You know, the stuff that just is fact-based, experience-based, and where things are at in regards to this particular discipline, in this case, Zen, like what we've been talking about. Okay. And then we will be doing the Chuck's Cure, which is here in green. This is, again, for members only. As you can see, it's in the members section. And that's going to be our weekly Zoom gathering on Sundays at 1 o'clock. Okay? All members receive, this is across the board for all members, they receive a 10% discount on all Nature Creatures swag and merchandise. So if you become a member, I promise you buy 2 or 3 items on swag, you've already paid for a month of your membership. So you get a 10% discount on all your swag merchandise, which will far exceed what you're paying a month in access fees. And then access to my audiobook, Elucidating Christianity, will be available to members there past the membership line. So this slide will bring you to speed as to where things are going with the membership. Be excited because you guys will finally be able to get some swag next week, as well as all the merch I've been working on and these 2 videos that I've made, which are actually pretty awesome. One video talks about loneliness. I made it's about a 35-minute video, in-car video, and I talk about quelling loneliness, because many of us here in the Great Awakening are extremely lonely because we're experiencing what I talked about earlier, which is many of us have had to make that hard decision and walk away from our normalcy. We've had to walk away from the friendships, acquaintances, relationships that we've always had. And so this video is an attempt to address that without giving you a bunch of steps to take, but just through perspective. And then the other video is incredible. It's a 2.5-hour video from about 3 hours of footage that of an interview, a written interview that was sent to me by Carol Weber. And Carol is obviously an experienced writer, which she is. She's a freelance writer, and she's stationed in Hawaii, of all places, which is really cool. And she wrote out about 25 questions. And the opening question was, why did you make the Khazarian Mafia videos? And what was your original inspiration behind that whole series? And so I spend the first probably 15 minutes giving the history of that video series and how it came about, what was the energies, what were the influences on my life at that time that caused me to make the video, because I didn't make the video to be viral. I made the video to educate people. And so Carol just does an exceptional job in this interview, this written interview that I took care of, that I answered, that I recorded, and the questions are amazing. So that's the other video that's going to be available, and those will continue. Those long form videos will also continue for members, and anyone who's a part of my work and the material that I'm doing will be able to have access to that. So that's what's coming. Here it is again. Real excited, guys. Real excited to introduce this to you. Huge thanks to Pete and the team for pulling this together. The site is first class. I would imagine that I would have paid upwards of $50,000 to $70,000 for the site, and you guys will see it when you go there. The quality is beyond belief. I think you'll be very impressed with what Pete has done. It's top notch. It is absolutely top notch. Oh, and good news, this is awesome news for those that are supporting me. I'll be closing my GoFundMe because all donations made at my new site won't have to go through any kind of transfer fees. Donations will go right to me. There won't be percentages taken out of those donations, which is fantastic. That'll be the first time ever for me. And then I also have the site. You can pay with Apple Pay, Google Pay. You can pay with a regular credit card. You can make donations with a credit card or with any of those Apple, Amazon Pay, any of that stuff. Those will all be integrated into the site. This is how awesome Pete is. And so he has gotten this thing completely dialed in, and it's going to be very convenient. It's just like shopping at Amazon. There's previews for products, descriptions. I've personally written descriptions for every single product in my product line. I have personally designed every single product myself, and I have put the entire thing together. Nothing has been done by AI. Everything has been my personal work. Every color, every font, every word, every single thing is from me. This head right here. So it is incredible. And I hope you totally enjoy it and dig it. Okay. Yes. All of them. Pete's the man, dude. Pete, Jedi Master. Jedi Master. My eyes are blue. Here. You see it? There. You can see them. They're blue. True to life, baby. No fakies. I don't wear contacts or anything. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Miller, and I appreciate your dedication to my work, friend. Thank you. Great stuff at the site. All right, moving on. I'm sure you guys are not here to hear all about that. Okay, so this is what happened this week to get us started. Are you guys ready? Okay. As what seems to happen it was Friday night. Yeah, last night. Early in the evening, around probably 8 o'clock, I came across an amazing psychology that undergirds the psychopaths that run the world. I get asked all the time by people, how can human beings behave like this? How can people who call themselves human beings and empathetic and for the human cause, how can they behave like they do? Meaning the monsters that run the world, right? And I found the psychology. It is called the dark tetrad. This is a real thing. I'm going to walk you guys through this. This is incredible. And then we're going to do the Joseph Campbell stuff. Okay. You guys, it's going to blow your mind away. Okay. This is a psychology that was released. Here, I'll show you the next slide. This is a psychology released years ago by some doctors. Unlike full-blown personality disorders, the dark tetrad focuses on elevated trait levels that can be adaptive in certain contexts. Short-term mating success, leadership emergence, and competitive environments is where this is most useful, but you won't believe how diabolical it is. Watch. But often lead to interpersonal harm, ethical violations, or relational conflict over time. But the dark tetrad does not care. The four traits overlap substantially. People who are high in one are often somewhat elevated in the others, yet they have unique features. They are commonly measured with the validated self-report scales, such as the Dirty Dozen. The dark tetrad, and I haven't had time to pursue the Dirty Dozen. The dark tetrad describes four interrelated but distinct socially adversive personality traits that exist in the general population. This is how a normal human being can become a monster. These traits are patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving that are callous, exploitive, and self-serving, leading to harm and often high levels of criminality. This is the undergirding psychology of those that run the world, okay? So this person is malicious, ruthless, and exploitive. An empathetic vacuum lacking honesty and humility, is unwilling to agree, and is contentious in their motivations. Inflated self-esteem, morally bankrupt, and will do whatever it takes to get the job done. They have the mob mentality. Okay. Now, I made a screen. Oops, you weren't supposed to see that, doggone it. You weren't supposed to see that, doggone it. I made a screen of typical examples of this personality. So we're going to skip over that slide and make sure that you don't see it. And these would be people who would typically have these personality traits. Doggone it, he keeps skipping back to that slide. Doggone it. Okay, the first one is narcissism. This person is a narcissist, okay? A grandiose self-view, entitled, superior, dominant, strong need for admiration and validation. You're going to, when you see this, you weren't supposed to see that now. When you imagine the people that you have in your head that would be like this, imagine, you don't even have to imagine, this is what they are. Entitled, superior, dominant, strong need for admiration and validation, superior to others, expects and likes special treatment, exaggerates achievements, seeks attention and status, reacts poorly to criticism, exploits others to maintain self-image, shallow empathy. This is an interesting one. Showing genuine concern for others only if it serves them. Pro tip, narcissists can often be charismatic, even likable. Likable people upon initial introduction, often humorous and charismatic from a balloon self-esteem and God complex. And I mean, imagine when you see these, oh, you weren't supposed to see that. When you see people like that in society, right? Doesn't it define them perfect? Watch, I got 4 of them. Machiavellianism. These are real things. These are the 4 psychologies to make this tetrad. Clinical strategic manipulator. Carries an emotionally detached, the ends justifies the means ethos. Mob material. Pragmatic deceiver and amoral in pursuit of goals. Does this not define the people that run the world? I mean, think of the leadership of the world. This is exactly what they're like. Calculated liar and flatterer. Builds coalitions to achieve outcomes. I mean, think of Soros. Relationships are just transactions for long-term planning of manipulation. Isn't that exactly what we're experiencing now with what they're uncovering? Have you guys seen what they are uncovering? Here, remove this for a second. Have you guys seen what they're uncovering about Obama? Have you seen what's been uncovered? And that he was an active part of the deception of the population. An active part, we now have proved. And look, calculated liar and flatterer. I mean, does that not describe him? Builds coalitions to achieve outcomes. Relationships are just transactions for long-term planning and manipulation. Sex partners are just trophies. No guilt in deceiving others. I mean, none of these people have, you weren't supposed to see that. None of those people have any kind of conscience. No guilt in deceiving others, more deliberate and less impulsive than a true sociopath. And that's a critical line right there. These people are worse than a sociopath because they're more deliberate. See, a sociopath isn't deliberate, right? They're impulsive. A true sociopath is impulsive. A sociopath is a person who has no guilt. No guilt. They can harm, destroy, murder, and they have none. No guilt at all. They don't struggle with it at all, right? A true sociopath. All right, these people are that, right? But they're deliberate and less impulsive, meaning they can organize their sociopathy. They can organize it into such a way that they can carry out a long-term plan of harm, right? A true sociopath they like wake up and they're going to go do it. But these people here, what was the word that it used? More deliberate and less impulsive than a true sociopath. This is the Machiavellian. A Machiavellian type is skilled at reading people to tailor lies to friends. I mean, think about this. Think about the world. Tailor lies to friends, partners, and coworkers to maximize personal gain while minimizing detection. And I mean, think about the whole green movement. Think how they have hidden under the guise of science by buying out all the scientists to claim that their claims are true. This is that whole Machiavellian side, a calculated liar and flatterer. Think of Fauci, pragmatic deceiver and amoral in pursuit of goals. I mean, does that not define Fauci? Does that not? Look at the next character, psychopathy, the license, callousness. Now imagine Obama and Fauci in your mind. Callous, overall lack of empathy or remorse for behavior, impulsive, a thrill seeker, antisocial tendencies, superficial charm masks a true emotional coldness, repeated disregard for others' commitments, rights, or feelings. I mean, is that not exactly it? Disregard for others' commitments, rights, or feelings, and communities for that matter, engages risky and irresponsible behaviors and never learns from consequences, takes pleasure in deceiving friends and associates. And here's the pro tip. Psychopathy cultivates the emotional detachment necessary, here's the key, for the other 3 traits in the tetrad to operate without internal conflict. And to show you real quickly, those are the 4 traits. These are the people that run the world. Narcissists, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and sadism. You guys want to see sadism? They're all sadists. Derives pleasure or satisfaction. This is the addiction. They are actually addicted to harming people. Derives pleasure or satisfaction from inflicting and or witnessing physical, emotional, psychological, or social pain, humiliation on others. Sadism is uniquely motivated by true enjoyment of cruelty. I mean, think of Podesta right there. Oh, sorry, you weren't supposed to see that. Think of Podesta, the true enjoyment of cruelty. Seeks creating situations where others suffer and or are tormented. Pro tip, sadists take pleasure in emotional fallout, like watching a colleague squirm after being undermined, or gaslighting a friend and then enjoying their confusion, distress, and turmoil. And I just thought you guys would appreciate this. Just thought you guys would appreciate seeing this and understanding why the people that run the world are like the way that they are, right? Okay, quick to questions, and then we're gonna look at Joseph Campbell for an hour. What do we got going on here? Hi, Cindy. Yes, I've been meaning to respond to you, love. I'm gonna respond to you this next week. Yes. Yeah, some people don't buy into that. I was actually sent an email this week by someone who suggested that I be, and I'm not going to say their name, but with a person who's on YouTube. And they said, you know, you really align with this guy and you should go check this guy out. And so I went to the link that was sent to me. And the first thing that the guy says in the video that was sent to me, that this person said I would get along great with this person and that we would harmonize together. The first thing this YouTube personality said, oh yeah, I know who that Chuck Swindoll guy is. Yeah, I would love to have him on the show. I got to have him on the show because he understands that whole KM thing is a loser proposition. That's what he said. The KM theory is for losers. And the people, many people thought I would mix well with this guy. He said, what was another thing that he said? There was another thing that he said. I'm not going to say his name because I'm not going to start a war. Here, I want to show you something. Hang on. Open recent. Here, this. Where is it? Here, this. Yeah. Claims the KM was an invention of one man and therefore was not directives or bloodlines passed down from the Watchers, which patently stands against Mike Harris's document that was the basis for all 5 of my current God Eaters videos, as well as many who subscribe to the idea of the Watchers or some kind of genetic engineering alien race. Then this guy goes on to say that he and I think Rosicrucianism sucks. He said that I think Rosicrucianism sucks. And that's not true. I don't think Rosicrucianism sucks. I think it's an extremely efficacious way of understanding the world better. Okay. And let's see what else. And he's completely against any spiritual element tied to physical reality. Okay. And so my question is, why on earth do any of my chat group think that this person would be a good idea for me? It was mind-boggling because, I mean, they said, this person said, oh, this guy goes on Rogan all the time. And I'm like, is that the kind of vibe like that I'm attracting? Is this the kind of thing? Okay. Anyway, interesting. Yeah, and Professor Zhang has some interesting thoughts there too. Yeah, I checked him out. I checked the dude out. And in 5 minutes, the things I just told you, in 5 minutes, he made those declarations that Rosicrucianism sucks, that the KM theory, that it comes, that the Khazarian mafia is for losers. Anyone that believes it is for losers. And then the last thing, that there's no spiritual element tied to the physical, that these two things are separate. And I'm like, Why does anyone think I would like this guy? It's incredible. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I could. He seemed very angry. I went and checked him out, and he was very much like that guy that promotes flat earth, that is constantly degrading people, that doesn't talk and think like him. That is just, I mean, is constantly putting people down, that doesn't think like him. That's exactly the vibe I got off this guy. And I thought to myself, why on earth would anyone think that I would vibe with this guy? Because that is not how I'm an open person. I'm completely fine being wrong. I'm completely fine, having differing theories, but I do have opinions, and my opinions are not based on just nothing. I mean, there is some substance there, and it's fine to disagree, but to call me a fool or an idiot because I disagree with you. I mean, guys, I don't do that to people. I don't call people fools because they disagree. I don't call people idiots because they disagree. I say, okay. Yeah, exactly. That's what I did. I said, I'm not going to go on air with that guy. You got to be crazy. You see, and that's the thing. I'm not a debater because I want people to believe what they want, you see. That's why I don't push what I believe onto people in the sense of, you're an idiot if you don't do as I say. You're an idiot if you don't believe like me. You're a moron if you don't think like me. I don't say things like that. I certainly have differing opinions. I certainly have opinions that, I subscribe to. But I don't call people idiots that don't think like me. And I don't hold to my subscriptions, to the end. If someone comes along and has a better mousetrap, I'm happy to adapt. There's just no need to be angry. There's no need to be angry. Yeah, true. I agree, DTP. I do. And that would be the case for many that subscribe to my work, because I'm sure there's theories that I have that they fully subscribe to and are down with. But I'm sure that there's theories, ones where they're like, Chuck's crazy to think that. And that's fine. No, this person isn't stalking me. No, it was a number of letters and people saying, you have got to get on. So this guy, you and he would totally gel. You would be awesome together. And he's on Rogan all the time, so you would get tons of exposure. And so I was thinking, okay, totally. I'll totally check this person out. And I checked him out, and I was like, in literally 5 minutes, he said all that stuff. And I was like, okay, what is the connection? Why are people in my chat thinking that I would get along with this guy? What is the thought process to think that I would get along with someone who would hold these opinions? And I mean, he's not about to back down. He's just like the flat earth guy. Like, if you say anything against what they say, it's just like, you're an idiot. You're full of crap. I hate you. You're a moron. What are you doing? It's like, really? I fit that type? Is that the vibe you guys are getting from me? I can't tell you. If I told you who it was, I promise you, that person would make it a vendetta in their life to destroy me because I didn't go along with what they were saying. They're that type. Yeah, it was the appeal, though, that this person was on Rogan a lot. And so the appeal was, listen, he's got a bunch of followers that are tied into Rogan. And so if you go in and interview with him, right, you will then have a connection to Rogan. And that's when I thought, okay, I wouldn't mind being exposed on Rogan. That's fine. That's totally fine. I'd even go on Rogan because I think Rogan has enough of an understanding to be able to hear someone that disagrees with him. I've seen Rogan respond to people who disagree with him, and he's he's down. He's okay with it. He doesn't sit there and mock them for 20 minutes because they disagree with him and laugh at him, make a fool of him. And I'm like, why would I walk into a room with a person who was dying to make a fool of me if I don't agree with him? It would be like the interview I held with Carol. And if she asked anything that I didn't agree with, I spend 10 minutes telling Carol how much of an idiot she is. That's the kind of person this guy is. He's exactly that kind. Can't wait to put someone down. And it's like, that is so anti-human. And you guys know that I'm not like that. I'm not sitting in my chair waiting to put someone down. I can't wait to mock them. I'm not. That's not me. He's not a no one. He's not a no one. You'd know him if I named him. I promise you it's not Josh. I've already been on with Josh. It's not Josh. I love Josh. No, Josh and I, see, that made sense. When people said, hey, you and Josh would get along great, I went and talked with Josh, and it was immediate connection. It's like, yeah, man. And we had a show, and it was awesome. We're going to do another show eventually down the road. It was awesome. And then this other person is just like, what? What? Here, what do you have to say? Not everybody can understand the same way others do. True. So I might look at it like that in some way. It is a way for some to stand over and or under, or not now, perhaps. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to go to the bottom because I'm in the middle of questions. What's still awesome? I hope it's still awesome. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you who it is. Okay. You guys ready? So I have not interacted with him. Yeah, I don't think he and I agreed on the egregore, and he did a couple of videos on the egregore that were fantastic. And I really latched onto that concept and have really integrated that concept into my work. But in other areas, like just he has just completely fallen off the cliff, man. The guy has become an angry mass, just a vile, angry mass. And it's really sad because some of the stuff he has to say is great, but the vast majority of his opinions are just like, bro, you really need to calm down. You really need to calm down. Yeah. Okay. I can't. It would be suicide. This guy would probably get Rogan to join up against me. They'll finish me. The anger in this guy is just seething. It's just seething out of him. Seething. Okay, let's go to the media assets. Let's get going here. Okay, so add to stage. It is really sad. Okay, this is what we're looking at today. How is that for an hour and a half prelude? This is what we're looking at today. We're looking at the perennial philosophy. And I have a little recording from Joseph Campbell. And let me get to my media assets here. And we are going to be going over that subject matter from the Sakavati collection that I started 2 weeks ago. And remember, in the Sakavati collection that we talked about 2 weeks ago, he began to talk about what is called the perennial philosophy. And the perennial philosophy is something that comes out of Adolf Bastian. And Aldous Huxley picked up on it, the same guy that wrote 1984. He picked up on the perennial philosophy from Huxley and wrote about it in a book that he called The Perennial Philosophy. We're going to look at that here in a second. Okay, Campbell did a 3-part recording about that. And it is so helpful to the person who is awakening because it helps people understand programming. It helps you understand your base programming so that you can escape. You can leave the farm, you can leave the programming. But you have to understand that it's programming before you'll leave. Because any programming that you have integrated as a child, you will have a fondness for. You will have a natural affinity for, because it's what stabilizes you. When you wake up in the morning, it identifies, okay, this is what I am. This is the world that I'm in. This is the situation. This is the ideas that I have in life. This is the direction modality that I'm headed towards. These are my friends and acquaintances. This is, typically what I eat and this kind of thing. All of this stuff is your go-to. It's called your ontology. It's your basic function. Okay. And the perennial philosophy looks at that, looks at your ontology. Everything from why do I eat what I eat in the morning to why do I believe in this God and not that God? Why do I pursue this vocation and not that vocation? Why do I like these people and not those people? This all ties into your perennial philosophy. The deeper sense that you carry in your life, and the deeper sense that you carry in your life is what defines all those things I just talked about. Your deeper sense, your fundamental, okay? The perennial philosophy points to that because the perennial philosophy points to God, the ether, ultimate reality, that which is know that. Okay, it points to that. And it begins a dialogue about something that can't be talked about. Okay, and we studied those 2 weeks ago when we studied folk ideas. Folk ideas are the costumes that we put on the perennial philosophy, on our ontology, on God. Those are the costumes. And the costumes we adorn these forms with bring to us recognition, bring to us a cognizance that I can think about and contemplate in my daily. But as you understand, the perennial philosophy, God, ultimate reality, is also part and parcel to your unconscious mind, your non-waking consciousness, the gut mind, your soul, the heart, your impulse to action, that what drives you. What is it that drives you? You could never put it into words, but something does. What is it that's driving your cells to function and keep doing what they're doing, keep doing the work that they're doing? The perennial philosophy, the ether, the self-organizing Tao that permeates and transcends all things. Okay? Those words, concepts, ideas are what form the perennial philosophy. And so Dr. Campbell has a 3-part series called Sukhavati. And we listened to part 1 2 weeks ago. We're listening to part 2 to get today. And I'm going to be walking with you through these slides. We may or may not get through all of them. That's fine. This is going to be what we're going to be working on for the next 2 weeks. Is this, next 2 or 3 weeks, is this perennial philosophy? Because it is very, very important that you get this right in the beginning. You get this wrong in the beginning, it's going to send you off track the rest of your course. So it is very, very important for you to get this right in the beginning. Now, to begin, here we go. Add a stage.
Somewhere in the 9th and 8th centuries BC,
Well, I will pause it at the end of every slide and we'll talk about it.
a shift of accent takes place, particularly in the Orient, where instead of simply presenting the images are interpreted. That's to say, we're going to turn from simply what might be called visual and active relationship to the forms of myth, through the imagery of myth and the rituals through which the myth is rendered into life. There was a turn to thinking about these things, interpreting them. And so the Oriental philosophies actually represent a discourse interpreting the elementary ideas. Now, what happened in the West following the period of Aristotle, particularly, was a gradual attack on the mythological ideas, so that criticism in the West tended to separate itself from the elementary ideas. However, there is an undercurrent throughout the Western thinking also. It's associated with Gnosticism, alchemy, and many of the discredited manners of thought that carries on this interest in what might be called the perennial.
Okay. Here. This at the stage. Okay. So what Joe is talking about here, these elementary ideas and so forth, those are the local forms of this perennial philosophy. And what he talks about here is particularly in the Orient, this is in regards to Tao, Confucianism, Zen eventually, instead of simply presenting the images are interpreted. Okay, now what this means is when you begin to interpret God, ultimate reality, the Tao and so forth, when you begin to interpret, meaning telling people what this is, what those are, you see, you're already falling short of what that is, what those are, because you're putting it into words. And so Joe, right here at the beginning, is showing that whenever you begin to interpret the perennial philosophy, the elementary idea, whenever you begin to interpret this, there's going to be a dysfunction that automatically is birthed because you're talking about something that can't be talked about. It's beyond talking about. This is why we have what's called philosophy. Philosophy allows us to talk about subjects that are extremely difficult to comprehend, to cognize, to understand. But by talking about those things that are hard to understand, we begin to understand them. This is that whole idea of joining together. We're better together than we are separate. We're better combining our intellect than we are just shooting that stuff in the dark. Okay, so Dr. Campbell here is basically outlining and letting you know that a discourse is beginning in regards to the elementary ideas, in regards to God. And this here, he shows that criticism of this tended to separate itself from the elementary ideas in the West. You see, the West tended to separate itself from elementary ideas through its interpretation. This is why the Roman Catholic Church tells you this is who God is. This is the attributes of God. This is what God is about. This is what God did in the past. This is what God is doing in the future. They're interpreting. They're giving you the data. They're not allowing you to decide for yourself and work these things out on your own. They're handing you a book. They're giving you words. In other words, they're containing that energy and they're putting it into a sociology, a social norm, a social organization, right? That will then crown that social group, that social community. Okay? So it isn't about freedom. It's about taking that perennial philosophy, organizing it into a set way, and then coercing the population into that philosophy, into that set way. And Joe is just simply letting you know here, hey, just so that you know, this began in ancient society. And we have seen it here. He shows it right there. It's associated with Gnosticism, alchemy, and many of the quote unquote discredited manners of thought. And the reason why Joe uses the term discredited manners of thought, it's because we are in a modern age that's based in science, and they don't have any time for woo-woo. Scientists have no time for any kind of woo-woo. And so orienting to any kind of spiritual philosophy, spiritual idea, woo-woo sense to the science is heresy. You've gone down the wrong quote unquote path. Okay. So it's very important to understand then that these ancient systems of Gnosticism, alchemy, and discredited manners of thought are actually key in your better understanding. This is why they were taken from you and discredited, because the authorities never wanted you to understand what they taught, because you then will awaken to the sense of the perennial philosophy, awaken to the sense of the elementary idea, which is this larger sense and meaning that undergirds the world. But they don't want you aware of that. So they fill the world with Maya and distractions. So you never understand or see even the deeper principle, this perennial philosophy that Adolf Bastian was talking about, this perennial philosophy that Aldous Huxley was talking about. Okay, here we go. Add back to stage.
Now, I'm thinking of the perennial philosophy as it has been expounded particularly by Anandake Coomaraswamy and picked up, I think it was during the 40s, by Aldous Huxley in that work of his, The Perennial Philosophy. I'm thinking of this as a translation into verbal discourse of the implications of the mythic image.
Okay, so let's read this here. The Perennial Philosophy, 1945, is an anthology of mystical writings drawn from the world's major religious traditions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, Islam, and others, interspersed with Huxley's own commentaries to demonstrate that beneath, there it is, that underlies, that beneath their surface differences lies a single, here it is, this is the perennial, a single, timeless, perennial philosophy. At its core is the conviction that a divine reality, or ground of being in the words of Huxley, exists both beyond and within the world, and that the human soul is of the same nature, that's key, is of the same nature as this reality. You see, so he's saying right there, a divine reality exists beyond and within the world, and that the human soul is of the same nature, there it is again, you're a nature creature, same nature as this reality, and that the highest human purpose is to realize this identity through direct, unitive knowledge. What are we studying Zen? This is why I'm bringing this up right now. This is why I'm bringing this up. Do you see how perfectly this coincides with what we are studying in Zen? Do you see it? It's right there. This identity, who you really are through direct unitive knowledge. Huxley shows how saints and sages across cultures describe the same path. Isn't that true? That ties into We're All Just Walking Each Other Home by Ram Dass. Remember when he said that? Describe the same path, the systematic mortification of the ego, contemplative practice, and ethical self-discipline that dissolve the illusion of separateness and allow the individual to experience the divine directly. Remember, how many times have I said in Zen, it's direct pointing, arguing that the perennial philosophy offers the only true, adequate answer to the human predicament. How about them apples continuing?
Now, myth comes from the same zone as dream. And this is the zone of what I would call the wisdom body. When you go to sleep, it's the body that's talking. And what the body is moved by are energies that it does not control. These are the energies that control the body. They come in from the great biological ground, whatever it may be, protoplasm. They're there. And they are energies and they are manners of consciousness. But we also have in this body this affair up here of the head, and it has a system of thinking of its own. And there's a whole manner of consciousness that stems from the head set, and it is different in its knowledge from that of the body.
This is so critical. Okay. Add to stage. Okay, this is a critical slide. Now, you guys have heard me talk about how Campbell, his theory is that the organs self-assemble, and they self-assemble from the DNA, the genes, from your parents. Okay, and they go about the self-assembly of themselves. So nobody tells the heart cells, okay, make a heart. Nobody tells or directs the liver cells, okay, make a liver. Nobody tells the bone cells to make a bone. Okay, nobody tells the amino acids, the proteins, all these things self-organize. Okay, and Campbell's theory was that the conflicts and contrasts that we experience in life are basically in a bigger picture, the contrasts and conflicts that exist in our gut system that runs itself. And his theory ties in well with this slide here. His theory was that this comes out of the protoplasm, what composes the cytoplasm, the nucleus, the essential elements of the cell. And those energies are there. And the cells do of these things of themselves so. All right. And then his theory is that now that all self-organizes of itself so. And then he says we got this brain up here, which has its own mind. It has its own ideas. And its own ideas are not directly the ideas of the gut, because it has its own interpretation, its own way that it sees these things that happen of themselves so, right? So he's recognizing this. And he shows that those energies are there and they have their own manners of conscience. And yet the mind is different in its knowledge than that of the body. And this is what creates essentially the conflict you experience in your life of hanging on. The idea of being in a conflict-oriented world. These things are coming out of your mind. They're not coming out of the body. They're coming out of your mind, which is observing the world and experiencing the world and getting its own ideas. And some of those ideas that it integrates may not necessarily be coming from the ground of being. So often you're off on some tangent. Like a person who gets involved in some religion. They've gone off on some tangent about who they are, what the world is about, what God is, who God is, those forms. And they've gone off on this tangent in their head with these energies that exist in the head that are different, as Dr. Campbell points out, than those of the body. And that's why you're here. See, don't see this as bad. See this as part of your uniqueness. You see, in the challenge of life is amalgamating these wild ideas that this thing gets with the quote unquote wild ideas that are the ground of being. And bringing and coalescing these two things together is what brings peace into your life. And this is why trying to force this thing's idea onto this thing leads to disillusionment, leads to anxiety. Because it's like you've met a new friend and now you're trying to put all you want that friend to be for you into that friend. And your friend's like, hey, I want to be your friend, but I'm going to be me. And that's the reason to love that person, is because they're going to show you a different side of life. And it's the same thing with your gut. It's your eternal friend to this thing. And it simply wants to be friends with the ideas that you have up here. And it simply wants to amalgamate the ground of being, the sense of oneness, the sense of connectedness of all things within the ideas that this thing gets. So that this thing stays in peace, stays in cohesion with the ground of being, with the underlying causation that is reality. And this is what Joe is pointing to. Right on? Okay, now watch.
When a baby is born, it knows just what to do with its mother's body. It is ready for the environment into which it's put. It doesn't have to be instructed. These things happen. And this is the work of the wisdom body. Also, that same wisdom brought the little thing into form in its mother's body. It was shaped by these energies that live in us, and of which we are the carnal manifestation. This wisdom of the dream, wisdom of the vision, is the wisdom then of the perennial philosophy.
Okay, so there it is. It's the wisdom of the perennial philosophy. So the perennial philosophy is the self-organizing Tao. Okay, you're taking a Western concept, the perennial philosophy, right? And it means, this is that common theme, walking each other home, common theme. It has the same underlying meaning as the Tao. Same underlying meaning of the enlightened one, the Buddha. Same underlying meaning as Christ consciousness. These would all be the same energy in different costumes, okay? This is the wisdom, here it is, this is the wisdom of the body. That's what you got to connect here. That eternal sense of oneness, that eternal sense of transparency, that wonder that is all things is the perennial philosophy in this concept, in this idea. Okay? It's very important to get that from the beginning. And it is that perennial philosophy, that self-organizing feature that is built into you, right? It's in baby here in this picture. It's this adorable picture, this little kiddo. The baby is ready for the environment into which it is born. It's coming from that environment. Comes out. Baby comes out of the parents. What makes the parents? The stuff they're eating, the breath they're breathing, the life they're living composes the parents. And it is out of this composition, out of this growth, out of the planet, that the baby comes. Self-organizes in mama's womb. Mama knows exactly how to form that baby in her womb, but she could never give you the directions. She could never tell you how she does it. It's past words. If mama tries to put it into words, she degrades the process, because the process is beyond any kind of concept of the words, and putting it into words lessens the miracle that is the child forming. Life, the world, the universe is no different. It lessens it when you cap it, when you put words on it. So the idea of this perennial philosophy is to bring you into accord with this concept without locking you down into any specific form or concept. It's tricky. Okay. And this is then, again, the wisdom of the body, the vision of the body is for your mind to come into that kind of expansion. And that's why we're having a great awakening, is that the mind expands into this concept. It doesn't shrink into it. When you take on a religion, when you take on a belief system, your mind shrinks into the belief system. Whereas when you integrate wonder, when you integrate the ineffable, your mind expands. It's the opposite, because there's no words. There's no words for it. Your mind expands to conceptualize it. It's like when you go to the Louvre and you see that incredible Monet. Your mind has to expand to comprehend the beauty that you're witnessing. Do you see? Past words. And this is what he's pointing towards. This thing doesn't have to be instructed. The baby knows exactly how to suckle. When the baby comes out of mama, knows exactly how to nurse, knows exactly how to poop and pee, knows exactly how to move their hands, knows exactly how to breathe, knows exactly how to beat their heart. And nobody told them any of this. None of it. This is the wisdom body. This is the wisdom that is in your body. That is the Tao. That is the central, ineffable, that is within you. And the perennial philosophy that comes out of Bastian, Huxley, Campbell is an attempt for you to understand a larger perspective of this, so that you will leave the institutions that have attempted to form this for you, rather than you going out for yourself and deciding for yourself based on your own discernment just what that is. Do you see? This is why it is so important to think for yourself. Here we go, continuing.
When you dream, your waking consciousness aspect does not understand the dream. So you have to go to a psychoanalyst who doesn't understand it either. The interpretation is gradual, and it comes from an exploration by the head of your own wisdom. And so we find that there is a kind of radical distinction between the perennial philosophy in its mode and its axioms, quite different from the axioms and mode of the rational system. And it's out of that other that I want to try to talk today.
Okay. And so we find that there is a kind of radical distinction between the perennial philosophy, your gut mind, in its mode and axioms, which is quite different from the axioms and modes of the rational system, that's your brain. And it's out of that other that I want to try to talk today. So he is talking about the rational system that comes out of the gut. That's what he wants to talk about today. Because all these different societies you and I have grown up in all have their own idea. And every darn one of them thinks that its idea is the best one. And it ain't about to share their idea with anyone else. So it's very valuable right now as we walk with Campbell. He's going to walk us through how this came about. He's going to walk us through right into India 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, when this whole idea of God, perennial philosophy, this whole idea of this underlying, undergirding current that permeates all things. And he's going to show you where this origin came from here in the West. And he's going to walk you through that, so that I'm doing this so that you can release from it, so that you can know it and release from it, no longer be tied by it, but realize it's past any of these Western ideas. So by learning the Western idea, this idea that comes out of India, by learning this idea, you'll begin to understand past that idea. It's like learning the magic trick. You see past the magic trick because you learn how the trick is done. So you're not taken by it anymore. And that's the way I want you to be with religion and belief systems. I don't want you taken by them anymore, because you understand them. And because you understand them, you can easily walk away from it. You're not tied because you understand its method, its means, its ways, how it does what it does. And so you're not taken by it because you're not taken by what it does. Do you see? Okay, here we go, at the stage.
Now, as I say, the interpretation of the mythic forms went forward in great style, principally in India, very early. And so it's through reviewing the mythologies and the interpretations of the myths in India and then in China and Japan that I propose to introduce us to what I take to be the ground thinking of the perennial philosophy. And so while I want to give a sense of the richness and wonder of the ethnic aspect of the Oriental system, my principal interest today is in extracting from them the elementary. Not accenting the ethnic, but extracting the elementary. So that's what I'm going to try to bring forward. Here we are on the Ganges. And on the shore there is Benares. The idea of the sacred river, the Jordan, the waters that pour from heaven, it then becomes translated into the idea of the grace of the divine flowing inexhaustibly out of some source. And in India, at the very source of the Ganges, up in the Himalayan area, it's a very sacred place, and if one goes there, there are yogis all around practicing yoga, getting close to the source, literally. And one of the problems with symbols, and it's the main problem with symbols, is that people tend to get lost in the symbols, so they think they have to go up to the head of the Ganges in order to get to the...
This reminds me of people that travel to Israel. Nothing against them going to Israel. But they think that by going to Israel, they think they're getting closer to the source, or they think they are getting closer to the original, right? And it's because they have a conception in their mind of God that's locked in time, namely Jesus. And so they've tied into this idea of time through a form, you see, and that locks them into this idea that when they go and travel to where he quote unquote walked, that they somehow are in an exceptional space that is tied into this form. In other words, the space has more meaning because of the form. And see, this locks you into dualism. What Campbell is saying here is you don't need to go to the space. You're in the space all the time. There's no need to go to the head of the Ganges. There's no need to go to Israel and stand by the Sea of Galilee. You're in that space now. The concept that you have to travel there, go there in order to have that, to experience that, or to experience it more so or better. That's your own illusions, you see. And Campbell is showing here at this stage. And Campbell is showing here that right there, the second paragraph, in India, at the very source of the Ganges up in the Himalayan area, it's a very sacred place. And if one goes there, there are yogis all around practicing yoga. And he kind of laughed when he said getting close to the source, because there isn't a fundamental understanding that there's no need to go to the head of the Ganges to get any closer to the source. The closest you can get to the source is right here. You see? Don't get tied into the physical thing. It's a constant. The spiritual is the constant. It's no greater there than here. It doesn't manifest more so there than here. It is all in you. There's no need to seek outside yourself, in other words, is what this is pointing towards. And so he says here, I want to get a sense of the sense of the richness of the wonder and ethnic aspect of the Oriental system, which is the local deshi, the ethnic aspect. His principal interest here is actually the perennial, not extracting the ethnic, but extracting the elementary. And the elementary is the perennial philosophy, the elementary idea, the basic idea of this permeating force that transcends and undergirds all things. Right? This is where he's going at this stage.
The problem in myth, the problem in mysticism is that you should not lose the message in the symbol. The message always is of the spirit. And when the symbol is taken to be the fact, so that you have to go to Hardwar in order to get to the source of the Ganges, you've mistaken the message. This concretization is one of the major what can I say, deceptions in the Western handling of symbols.
That's big.
And it's one of the reasons why we've lost touch with the elementary idea and the perennial messages.
Do you see that? Here it is right at the top. This is brilliant, guys. The problem in myth, the problem in mysticism, is that you should not lose the message in the symbol. The message is always of the Spirit. And what he's saying there is, don't get tied into the interpretations. The interpretations are pointing to the Spirit. The Spirit is the message, not the interpretation. Don't mix that up. Don't mix up the head of the Ganges as being the original, as being the source. The head of the Ganges is not the source, right? The source is everywhere, all around us, all the time, period. There's no need to tie the source into an image. That's what he's saying here. A form, a time reference, concretization. Right there, he says it. Concretization, right there. When you take a form, a mythological form, and you tie it into time, you tie it into place, you tie it into an event. And when you do that, you are locking the wonder into time space. That's inappropriate. You are locking the wonder into a set reference. That's inappropriate. There's no set reference. There's no time space. The wonder is past time space. Time space is an illusion. Time space is dualism. That's a mask of the reality. Do you follow? And this is exactly where Campbell's pointing. Do not concretize. That's why he started laughing. What can I say? It's one of the greatest deceptions in Western handling of symbols. And it's because people have tied in this energy into a form, namely a guru named Jesus, namely a guru named Muhammad. People have tied that energy into a form, and that is inappropriate. That degrades the form. It degrades the essence, meaning both. The form is degraded as well as the essence, because the form is not the essence. The essence is not the form. Calling one or the either is inappropriate. Do you see? It's wordless. We talk about it, but you must hold those words loosely. You must not anchor into the concept or the form. That's where you're going to run into trouble. And this is exactly what he's pointing towards. It's one of the reasons why we've lost touch with the elementary idea and perennial messages, is because of this concretization of the symbol. The notion, for example, right here, he says it, the notion, for example, that God is a fact. God is not a fact. God is a symbol of something else that can't be put into fact. And even my saying it can't be put into fact puts it into that can't be put into fact. This is where he's pointing to. It's a deeper space. It's a deeper space. Anything that can be named and regarded as a form is what? A symbol. Is a symbol the Spirit? No. The symbol points to the Spirit. The symbol is not the Spirit. Jesus, Muhammad, whatever, may point, Buddha may point at the Spirit, but it's not the Spirit. Spirit is in no form. Spirit is past form. These are the deeper concepts that will help you release from religious constructs, from the in and out group idea, from a conflict-oriented existence. This is how you literally escape those lesser than human experiences. Because if I experience the world through the idea of conflict, I'm having a lesser than experience of the world. Am I not? Because I'm orienting it. I'm living it out in a state of conflict. Well, that's less than what reality, life, nature truly is. So if I lock down into dogma, if I lock down into interpretation, what have I done? I've lessened that which is past words. Got it? Should be very clear.
Of the symbol. The notion, for example, that God is a fact. The God idea is a symbol. Anything that can be named and regarded as a form is a symbol. There's a wonderful saying of Gerhard Hauptmann, the great German poet. Dichten heißt hinter Wörtern das Urwort erklingen lassen. Writing poetry consists in letting the word be heard behind words. It's the whole world of symbols. Goethe's word again. Alles Vergängliche ist nur ein Gleichnis. Everything that is transitory is but a reference. But the reference isn't to anything. It's to what is called the void, shunyata, and it's called the void because no thought can reach it. And so what these symbols are talking about is something that can't be talked about. And they have to become transparent. They have to open. And what you find then is that the ethnic opens to the elementary. And one of our problems, and these are the two great sources now of the problem here in Western interpretation of these matters, we have the Aristotelian accent on rational thinking, and we have the biblical aspect on the ethnic reference of the mythic symbols. These two pin us down to the world of facts and rational cogitation. But from this other standpoint, those are exactly what have to be transcended. They have to be rendered transparent and not.
Okay, right there. He just said it. These two pin us down right there to the world of facts and rational cogitation. But from this other standpoint, those are exactly, meaning what religious claims, those are exactly what have to be transcended, meaning the religious notion has to be transcended. They have to be rendered transparent and not opaque. And he is speaking about the forms. The idea of the dove, the Holy Spirit, the idea of Jesus, the idea of Muhammad, the idea of the burning bush, the idea of the separation of the Red Sea. You have to transcend the idea, right here, he says it right here. You have to transcend the idea of rational cogitation. These things are to be rendered transparent and not opaque. And when I put them into time, I put them into a reference, they're no longer transparent, they're opaque. They're in time. And this concept is past that. The religionists, the scientists are trying to lock you into time because they're dualistically obsessed. That's why they are the way that they are. Living in denial in so many ways, because that's required in order to be dualistically obsessed. You have to live in denial in these other areas because there's no definition. There's no final defining. And this is exactly what Joe is pointing you towards here. He's helping you see this. They have to be open. First paragraph, last sentence. They have to be open. And what you find then is that the ethnic opens to the elementary. And this is what we are attempting to do in Zen. We are attempting to take the ethnic, the folk idea called Zen, and open it so that it shows, it renders clearly, it gets out of the way for the perennial philosophy, the Tao, the that which is know that, to be rendered of itself past Zen, past the notions that bring you to enlightenment that are within Zen, the quote unquote things that you do, way that you think or don't think, all that doing. Zen is attempting for you to release from all that doing, right? And simply open to the deeper principle through the practicing, through the daily, realizing that I am in an illusion, that I am to align to principles that are not written down. Compassion can't be written down. Love can't be written down. You can talk about it, but it can't be finally written down. And you're the same way. You can't be written down. God can't be written down. Life can't be written down. And the idea is to get into that space without having to try, without having to meditate, without having to do anything, but simply be. Be the organism, the transparency, the authenticity you were born as. Live your life that way. There's no such thing as anxiety. There's no such thing as worries. There's even no such thing as troubles, because everything becomes a way of learning, becoming, expressing, developing. Everything becomes that. And when everything becomes that, life is a joy. Every day I'm learning something. Every day I'm developing and becoming. I'm never stagnant. That's the food. This inside is quote unquote seeking. What does the soul have, does not have that you have? Experience. You bring that about by participating. And participating in the wonder brings you awareness of the wonder, coalesces you with the wonder. Participating fearlessly, courageously, brings you into accord with the wonder that is nature, your true identity, your true self, who you truly are as a nature creature. That's where this is pointing. Here we go. Add to stage.
And here we have at the Ghats the people bathing in the Ganges. It's a constant, as it were, baptism rite, going in, absorbing then the virtue of this miraculous gift of the universe, the waters of the Ganges.
See, and this is where the idea of baptism comes from, folks. This is where it comes from. This idea of bathing, I mean, listen here. This idea of bathing in the sacred water. This predates Christianity by 2,000 years. This idea of bathing in the sacred water, the gift, the water of life, that comes from where? Nobody knows. The sky, somewhere. The mountains. It just comes out. The ineffable. What exactly causes this? And these people 2,000, 4,000 years ago had no idea about precipitation and the way that the system, the world works. It was just a wonder. It's like, oh my God, this water is just coming out of the mountain. It just flows down. It's cleansing. It's refreshing. I can bathe in it and it cleans me. And this is where this whole idea of this spiritual epiphany, being cleansed by the holy waters that come from God knows where, right? And this is the beginning of this whole idea of spirituality, the beginning of this whole idea that there is a deeper principle at work here that I am part and parcel to, but I'm also experiencing at the same time. There's a spontaneity here. And this is 4,000 years ago, people starting to get this clue, this idea that, wait a minute, there is an organizing, a self-organizing, a pattern that's at work here. I mean, we can see it in the stars when we plant our crops at the time when the stars say they always harvest at the right time, meaning they're always ready at the right time. There's a knowledge here. There's a pattern here that is beyond conception, that we are part and parcel in learning about, but could never fully conceptualize. Folks, this is what is happening here.
And now I go back 4,000 years. This is at Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley in northwest India. It's a bathing place. Mohenjo-Daro is one of a little cluster of small cities. This is one of the two largest that emerged in India 2000 BC. And now we come to the historical matter. Already in this Indus Valley civilization, also called the Dravidian civilization, also called the Mohenjo-Daro civilization, also called the Harappa civilization. You see, names don't matter, the reference. We have the emergence of a culture of the style of ancient Crete and Mesopotamia. It's contemporary with those worlds, 2000 BC. And one of the most important buildings in this ruined city is a bath.
Isn't it interesting that the most important facility there in the city is a bath? Again, leading back to baptism. What's one of the most important events you take part of in Christianity? Baptism. It's one of the most important, quote unquote, rites that the Christian experiences. And look, it all traces back, along with the stuff that's going on in India and Hinduism and Buddhism also. It all goes back to these original ideas from these ancient people in this catching on to the fact that there is a greater, quote unquote, work at work here. There's a greater organizing something or other that is at work here. And folks, you are seeing the beginning of Western religion right here. He's showing it to you. He's laying it out to you 7,000 years ago. And these people getting this idea that there is a larger principle at work. And remember, if you subscribe to the whole idea of the Younger Dryas and the cataclysm and wiping out humankind by the aliens, this falls right into place with that. These are human beings that are emerging out of a frozen world, a destroyed world, and they're re-finding out about the world again. and they're writing about it. They're forming ideas about it. And this is the beginning of culture. And you're seeing it. He's describing it to you right here. Brilliant.
And it's assumed that the importance of this had religious meaning or value, and that a continuity of that, from that, is what we meet when we come to the Ganges. It's a continuous thing for 4,000 years, the sacred water, the bathing in the sacred water. It is in this area that the first civilizations of the world appear. And they appear around 3,500 BC. It's becoming clearer and clearer, I think.
Remember, folks, we have had many iterations. We have had many iterations, and understand that when you wipe the world out, let's get out of this here. Here, wait a minute, where is it here? This. When you wipe the world out, right? Everything goes back to the Stone Age. This is what people who are doomers now and think that the world is going to be destroyed and that humanity is going to be knocked down like 10% of the people up. Okay. The reason why we know that's not going to be happening is because we're not going back to the Stone Age when it comes to human emergence and awakening. So, you know, if you're a doomer and you subscribe to the idea that humanity is going to be destroyed, I mean, this theory that I'm working on here and I'm rendering to you is not going to help you. Because if you're convinced humanity's finished, then, you know, run down that road, go with it. I am under the impression, and I am embracing the idea that we are in the middle of a human emergence process, not a human destruction process, but an emergent process. We are becoming, right? And so this is how you can understand, take solace or a surety, whatever you want to call it, if you need that. The way you can understand that we're moving in that direction is because if we were moving into human destruction, the things that were destroying us just a number of years ago would still be destroying us. You can tell there's been a change in energy, there's a change in patterning, and there's a change in what is happening. If you're not sensitive to that, it's going to be hard for you to see this. But if you are sensitive to these underlying things that are going on below the surface news, what is not on CNN, what isn't being announced on the news networks, if you're sensitive to that undergirding current, you will realize that this is an emerging principle right now that is happening with human beings. We're coming out of the Stone Age. So if everything were wiped out, we would just be going back to the Stone Age. Because there'd be nobody left. The technology dies with the society that dies with it. That's why there's no Pompeii. That's why, you know, we only have relics left of the empire that was the Egyptian empire. We just have some skeletons left of that whole thing. You see, because there was a reset. There was a reset. We went back to zero again. And that's why Campbell is talking about right here in our emergence. Here, add the stage. Here, right there, 3,500 BC. Restart. This is post Younger Dryas. The world had been iced over for thousands of years. We're coming out of that. Modern society. All of China and all of North America down to the middle part of South America was covered in ice or covered in water from the glacial melt that happened instantaneously when the asteroid hit the Northern American ice belt or ice cap that had basically formed on the top of the world all the way down to North America. It was 7 miles thick of ice. And all that shit melted. Right? And so Campbell's showing you right here, this is the society that's coming out, finally realizing after being oppressed for all those years, finally realizing, hey, wait a minute, there's a bigger picture at work here.
That all of the high civilizations of the world are reflections from this source. 3,500 BC in Mesopotamia, 2,500 BC in the Indus area, 1500 BC with the Shang dynasty in China, and then it jumps the ocean, and in Mexico and Peru we have the Olmec and Chavin phenomena of about 1200 BC. And it's out of these that the high civilization systems come. And when we speak of high civilizations, we speak of a civilization in which there is, except in one case, writing, and in every case, developed mathematics and extreme attention to the cycles of the planets through the
constellations. And the reason why he's talking about that goes back to astrotheology. what we studied here on my channel, we studied this event he's talking about. These ancient societies realizing these much deeper, larger principles that are locked in the celestial realm. And we studied in astrotheology how religion took those astrotheologic ideas and integrated them into a social order. And we looked at all of that in the astrotheology system. And this is what you're seeing. Campbell is talking about history as we understand it as it unfolded, in that these societies, the shamans realized and were the ones who could read the stars to know when to plant, who could read the weather to know when the storm is coming, to when storm season is coming, when it's best to go into battle. And so the shaman is advising the military aspect of that society. This is where we're headed towards weather-wise. It would be best if we attacked at this particular time, because the shaman is the master of the heavens. This is who became the priest. That's why all of your celebrations in Christianity are based on celestial events. It's because they come out of astrotheology. And Dr. Campbell here is just simply showing you this was the natural emergence, the common theme that was recognized by these high societies that organized to this larger principle, the perennial philosophy, this pattern, this wonder, this ineffable that undergirds, organizes, and self-organizes everything in the world. And what you are seeing is the beginning of the city-states. And when you understand that, you'll be so much less taken by the ideas that came out of those city-states, because you realize, I'm a contemporary. I have a much wider consciousness than an Israelite did 4,000 years ago. My concepts of God, my understanding of the world, my understanding of science and technology is far beyond what any Israelite would have known or could have known, what any Roman could have known, right? And so therefore your mythology, because of your intelligence and experience and awareness, expands and must expand past what those ancient societies developed as spirituality. You must transcend their ideas because you are in a larger world than them. Think about it. And so their mythology and what worked for them in their understanding of spirit and their understanding of God won't work for you, friend, because you are here in the modern age, 4,000 years past where they were. So trying to integrate a spirituality that's based on 4,000-year-old concepts from the head of the Ganges, you can see how that's going to lead your life to a lot of anxiety now, because you understand a bigger world than that. And you understand that the spirit has nothing to do with the head of the Ganges, has nothing to do with the Buddha, has nothing to do with Jesus. These are short-sighted, lesser views of the larger picture, which is your life, which is your experience, which will render to you a far larger universe, a far larger world and reality than any 2,000, 4,000-year-old society can muster. Do you see?
This cycling of the planets through the constellations is the great critical factor in the transformation of consciousness at this time. Because of writing and because of mathematics, it became possible to make records, precise records, of the passage of the planets through the constellations. And in Mesopotamia, as early as 3200 BC, apparently, it became evident that the planets were moving at a mathematically predictable rate. And the notion of a cosmic order, the order of the cosmos, comes into expression. And when people talk about mythology and rituals, they usually talk about it from the standpoint of modern mentality. And they speak about finding the causes of the world, origin myths and so forth. Explanatory myths, what are called etiological myths. That's not what myths are about. Myths do not have to do with analyzing and scientifically discovering causes. Myths have to do with relating the human being to his environment.
Yes.
And his environment before the discovery of these great planetary movements was largely the environment of the animal and plant world.
And we're going to get into that next week. And it's real important to understand that aspect because it ties into the human imagination. And I'm not going to go into that because that would be another 30 minutes. But the point here is this really critical line here. That's not what myths are about. Okay, explanatory myths, what are called etiological myths, that is not what myths are about. Myths do not have to do with analyzing and scientifically discovering causes. Myths have to do with relating the human being to his environment and what is the major dysfunctions right now in the world. Everyone thinks they're separated. Everyone has separative ideas of the world. They don't relate themselves to the world, themselves to the world, because they see these things as separate. They don't see themselves as a nature creature. People see themselves as a social creature. They're part of a social institution that has made, formed, given notions and ideas of what the world is. And people just simply have integrated that without thinking for themselves. And what is happening right now, and this is all part of the Great Awakening, is what Campbell's talking about here. A new myth. We have to embrace a new myth that isn't tied down to 2,000-year-old concepts and understandings of the world. And if you look at modern religion now, they're all tied down into 2,000-year-old understandings of the world, which is inappropriate. It's not appropriate. You have to move past those shortcomings in order to be relative, in order to be relevant to your life now, here and now, in today's world. You see the wisdom and logic in this? Do you see how it makes it all make sense?
So the very early mythologies have to do with relating to the animal world, and the problem there is the animal is respected, and the animal is nevertheless killed and eaten. And the problem of recognizing what might be called a covenant between the animal world and the human world, and recognizing the miracle of life which lives by killing and eating life, is a major problem that has to be solved.
Okay, this is really important here at the stage. Here. Please notice where he says here, and the problem there is the animal is respected and the animal is nevertheless killed and eaten. And the problem of recognizing what might be called a covenant between the animal world and the human world, and recognizing the miracle of life which lives by eating and killing life, is a major problem that has to be solved. And think about that. That's still an issue that people are dealing with. Folks that, a lot of folks that are vegan because they have integrated the idea that the way that nature works, which is killing and eating other life, is inappropriate. They've gotten this idea that that's inappropriate, that killing and eating other life is bad, not realizing that they're killing vegetable plants every day for themselves to live. They're killing life every day to live. This is how nature works. This is the hang-up that has to. Nature functions, this world functions by life eating life. That's how it works here. That's the way the merciless situation is. Life eats other life. That's the way nature works. And there is a psychology that has to be adapted, or you're going to have anxiety about eating animals, about eating plants, because you have this misunderstanding of what nature is. You're making nature into something that it's not when you say, no, there shouldn't be any killing for there to be life. That's against the basic principle of nature. That's how this world works. That's how nature works. Life eats other life. That's the way it is. So trying to deny that, trying to get away from that, you're just denying nature. You're trying to get away from nature. You who you are, the way nature naturally is. And so great effort and work, we're going to do this next week. Great effort and work had to be done to build a deeper understanding that isn't this fighting conflict orientation with the animals. It's a covenant. It's a covenant. and realizing that one day I will die and I will be eaten by the earth. I will be consumed by the ground, consumed by fire, whatever the case may be, this body. And it will go right back into the nature matrix, because that's how things work here. From death comes life. And from the dissolving of my body, the dissolving of all that makes this body, nature continues. That's how a lion pack lives. They're constantly eating the locals, constantly. That's how a monkey lives. It's constantly eating the fruits of the local society, both bugs, plants, animals, the whole thing. They're eating all the time, every day. That's how it works. And so when people get a hang up about the way that it is, about the way nature is, you see, you can't escape that anxiety. You're living in denial of the way that it is. This is the way that it is. Life eats life. Period. That's nature. That's nature. That lion is going to chase that gazelle, especially the pregnant one, because she's slow. And they can get to that one faster and eat. She's even got a baby in her tummy that the lion can eat. The lion wants that, folks. This is nature. This is nature. You can't get hung up about that. You have to let those things go and allow, this is the way that it is, and accept that. And this is why ancient societies, the shamans, formed covenants with the animal kingdom. This is why Native Americans would dress up in deer skins, in bear skins, in lion skins. That's why they did that. They're in covenant with the animal kingdom, because they know that they must eat these animals in order to stay alive, in order to stay healthy. And there's a psychology that goes to that. There's a ruthless psychology that goes to that. And this is the kind of stuff that happens when you begin to see the deeper principles that undergird, that are the foundation of nature. And as a nature creature, it is your role to integrate these very, very difficult to accept terms. Another one is, every single person that you love and adore and care for is eventually going to die just like you. There's no escape. Death bats 1,000. And this has to be integrated as though it's not a problem. This is the way nature is. Why do you think Christianity invented this idea that when you die, don't worry, it's okay, you're going to go to heaven, it's okay. The reason they're doing that is that people have a hang up about dying. There's no issue here. There's nothing to be hung up about. But the church makes it an issue, makes you a sinner, makes you fallen, gives you problems, so you think something's wrong with this, the way that it is. Gives you hang-ups about the way that it is. And as long as you have those hang-ups and you're trying to absolve nature as though something's wrong with nature, something is inherently wrong with you because you die, as long as you're acting and believing that way, this is how you build anxiety. This is how you become an anxious person, because you've accepted less than pictures of nature, which is a life eats life situation. And as long as you have a less than conflict-oriented, not covenant-oriented understanding of that hard reality, you're going to remain in anxiety. You're going to remain fighting it as though there's a problem. This is why they had rituals in ancient times, to come into accord with the mercilessness, the ruthlessness. That is nature. That is nature. You see? And this goes really deep, and you can see how far this throws, don't you? When you start to think, wow, if I get a hang up about that, I've got big problems, because that is the way nature is. And you're a nature creature. You're part and parcel of that eat life system. And you eat life every day to stay alive. Even if you're a vegan, you're killing hundreds of plants every week to stay alive. You're killing every one of them. Most likely killing them when they're in their fruiting, when they're their most healthiest. And that's when the vegan is chowing down on that living plant. Do you see? This all gets into that deep, deep psychology that is part and parcel to living life. And until you can accord these things, you will remain anxious. You will remain running around thinking that there is a problem to solve when this is just the way that it is. And this is why, and to finish up the night with this, and this is why this great awakening is so ruthless. It's a nature development. And only those who are willing to awaken are gonna awaken. Guess what happens to the ones that aren't willing to awaken? Guess what happens to them? They die disillusioned. Nature makes no parcel for them. They die disillusioned. They die in the illusion. The great awakening is the death of the old way. This is how you can see it's falling right into line with the way that nature works. From death comes life. Now you see it. Now you don't. Welcome to reality. This is the way that life is. This is why it is so important that you integrate the Great Awakening, that you grow with it, that you let go, like we've been studying in Zen, that you let go of it all, friend, because nature's going to take it all from you. Like it or not, nature will take everything from you. That's how nature works, because from death comes life. If you want to live a life of fulfillment, understanding, growth, and emergence, guess what has to happen in your life for that to happen? Death. Death of the old way. Death of the way you've always assumed it. This is the ruthlessness that's coming with the Great Awakening. And this is why it is so important that we are doing this every Saturday and every Sunday on Zoom, because it is our role and responsibility to adapt to the means and ways of nature, and to adapt them in a way that isn't, okay, I accept it, but this is beautiful, I love it. That takes a little different mentality. And that's why we do what we do. Okay, tomorrow for Zoom, to finish up, we'll finish up the rest of the slides next week. This is where we were at. We've got a few more slides. Here they are. Actually, just two more. Just this one and this next one. You want to just hear them out? Let's just hear them out.
The mind to this act of continually killing and consuming, wearing the skins of the animals, living in tents made of them, and so forth and so on. That's one aspect. The other is the plant world. Again, you're killing and eating life. And both the animal and the plant are, like the river Ganges, pouring into the world for your sustenance and are revered, and they become the revered powers and symbols to which man must relate himself.
Yes.
But then comes this discovery of the great cycles of the heavens. And what you find is a great concern to relate the whole organization of the society to this cycling. A tremendous accent on seasonal festivals. These festivals are not meant to control nature, they're meant to put you in accord with nature, and when you are in accord with nature, nature will yield its bounty.
Yep.
This is something that's coming up in our own consciousness now in the ecology movement, recognizing that by violating the environment in which we are living, we are really cutting off the energy and the source of our own living. And it's this sense of accord, so that living properly in relation to what has to be done in this world, one fosters the vitality of the environment.
Okay, that's the end of that recording, but key here is this here at the bottom, what he was talking about. And it is the sense of accord, so that by living properly in relationship to what has to be done in this world, one fosters vitality of the environment. You see, you are in accord with nature, and this is so key here, these festivals. These festivals are not meant to control nature. The rituals that they were practicing in these ancient times were not meant to control nature or tell nature what to do, like they do, like the Satanists do. They tell nature what they want, meaning they have the ritual, and then they tell these spiritual forces what they want, how they want the world to be. That is not the way those rituals used to go down. Those rituals brought people into accord with nature, understanding it from the base principles. They're meant to put you in accord with nature. And when you are in accord with nature, nature will yield its bounty. And this is the idea that realizing this deeper sense brings you into accord with nature, away from the idea of anxiety. Because if I'm carrying around anxiety, what am I doing as an electromagnetic being? I'm attracting anxiety. The more anxious I am, the higher I'm resonating into that anxious low frequency, the stronger that frequency is, and I just attract it to myself. Whereas when I accord nature and I realize the deeper principles that are involved in the idea of ingesting nature, which is a beautiful thing, when I integrate a different perspective rather than eating it in the sense of conflict, you see, I come into accord with nature. I accord with the way that it is. And the way that nature has it is from death comes life. And when you accord that idea, you see, you come into balance. You come into equilibrium with the situation as it is. You see, nothing to correct. Good stuff. Let's go to chat. 703 comments. My God. That's incredible. Okay. Yeah. Good point there. Yes, let's before I go, let's show here what Stacy said here, right here. If you want to talk further about this kind of stuff, there are two groups that have formed, a Discord and a Telegram. Very loving people run these, and you're welcome to go and have a chat. I am unable, because I don't have time, I am unable to attend the Discord and Telegram, but there are many people that do have the time and take the time to set this up to be able to build a community so that we have groups and people that we can talk to begin to challenge us and help us grow. Yeah, outstanding. Yes, and then tomorrow, this is what I was going to mention earlier. We meet at 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on Zoom. And that's on Sundays. And we talk about not only what we talk about Saturdays, but we talk about all kinds of other stuff like health and even sometimes some political stuff. And we cover a lot of different bases. Some people just have some things to share, which are very encouraging to all of us during this difficult time right now with humanity. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to be meeting an hour earlier at 12 noon for all the F1 freakazoids. So if you are into Formula One racing, I will be meeting an hour early. I sent that invitation to that room, which will be meeting an hour before the 1 o'clock. So at noon, if you want to talk F1, I sent that invitation on the Zoom list. If you want to be on the Zoom list, let me know, send me an email, and I will add you to the list. You should have gotten an invitation. If you have asked to be on the Zoom list and you haven't received an invitation from me, you are not on the list. Okay, just so you know, you are not on the list if you have not received a Zoom from me. Because if you've requested it, I've put you into the list. And I sent that list days ago. So if you haven't gotten the request for this week's Zoom, you're not on the list. You need to send me another email. Okay? And then when the website opens and so forth next week on Sunday, the 17th, I'll open up my new email, and then hopefully we'll be able to have a better chance to connect with my Nature Creature email. And for those that missed the beginning of the show, we are my website begins next week on the 17th. It's going to start. We're going to open the doors after Zoom ends on the 17th, that Sunday. So be ready. All my good stuff. I got some incredible merch I showed this week. I'll show you more next week. I got t-shirts coming this week. I love you, Don. Chuck, do you think I now have a sense of DMT? Maybe so. Not at all there, Bob. All good. All good, Don. What's up, Bob? Chuck, why are all Indian sages, gurus, mystics, vegans? Sadhguru consume the fear of it. It's because there isn't a basic understanding that life eats life in nature. Okay, that's how nature works. Life eats living life. And you have to come into accord with that, because that's the way that it is here. Life eats life. You can't escape that. If you want to escape it, fine. Just stop eating and you'll die. But that's the way it is. To be a nature creature living on this planet, you eat life. And so if you say, no, I don't eat life, Chuck, I'm a vegan. No, you're killing all the plants that are giving you the vegan food, that are giving you the vegetables and fruits. You're taking life. And if you're eating the fruits, you're eating the life that's in that fruit. It's all there. You're eating life. You're killing in order to live. And this is the way it is in nature. You have to get past that. You can't keep needing to make excuses or to dismiss it. You integrate this. That's the way nature works. Nature has laid it out for you. You're in a nature world, living as a nature being that has to eat life to live. That's your situation. Accept it. And so this is why people do this kind of thing. They haven't understood that life eats life in nature. That's the way it is. Life eats life. We're going to get into it more next week. And this is why they had the rituals for reverence for taking animal life. It is what it is. It is. Listen, every single one of my naturopathic doctors told me to eat a whole balanced diet. Not a one of them told me to go vegan. Not a one of them. All my naturopathic doctors, these are doctors that have been trained not in the Western medicine system. They've been trained in nature with nature principles. Okay, every one of them told me I need to be eating animal meat, good animal meat. Every one of my naturopathic doctors told me this. You need to be eating animal meat, Chuck, to fight cancer. Okay, and I beat cancer. So I'm not going to say that what they told me was wrong, because what they told me saved my life. And that involved eating animal meat. Okay, so it's a hang up. It's the vegans, they have a hang up with it, and they got to get past that, because if you want to become one with nature, that means you now become a nature creature, which means you follow the principles of nature. And in nature, life eats life. You're a nature creature. Life eats life. Period. Okay? That's the way it is. Try again, Mel. It should work. It should work. Here. KM or aliens more advancing us as cattle. You need to understand that you are a conscious being, and you need to understand that you are being preyed upon. Now, this would be the same argument as saying, well, then the lion is sinning when the lion goes and eats the gazelle, because the lion is eating a fresh mom and her baby she was about to give birth to. The lion is evil. Is the lion evil for doing that? No, the lion is not evil for doing that. Do you understand? This is a nature principle. What the KM have done is they have perverted this aspect of nature and turned it into their own self-glorification and their own self-empowering. They're no longer honoring the system of nature. They're honoring their own sense of self, which is why they do that. This has nothing to do with the rituals that the Native Americans are holding around the campfire 2,000 years ago. This has nothing to do with that. They're according nature. The KM practitioner that's eating children and that is using the system to their advantage are doing just that. They're not in accord with nature. They are advantaging the aspects, the characteristics of nature, just like the church advances the idea of baptism, which is a natural cleansing aspect of nature. But they've turned it into this social construct, and that you've got to take a bath, you've got to be cleansed because you're dirty. They have perverted this natural idea of cleansing that it comes out of nature. And we are surrounded by that, by the institutions that have developed this country, that have developed the world. They are perversions of these ideas that life eats life. The KM is a perversion of that idea, which is why they eat children. Do you understand? They have perverted this. And because they have perverted, they have used this natural power that is within nature to advance themselves. This is why they have power. They've perverted the power, which is why the world is changing, which is why there's a great awakening. The perversions are going to stop. And we will move back into accord, amalgamation with nature, and move out of these perverted ideas that come out of the KM, that come out of these institutions that destroyed the energy of this planet. And that's why this is happening. I need to stop, or I will just keep going and going. Eat local or hear the broccoli ground. Yes, here we go. Okay. Good. Shall I just go to the post-loop? Fortune, Perennial Philosophy, wonderful. I'm so grateful for tonight. Amazing. I feel gratitude. Congrats on the new website. Thank you. And also for 13 lives. Safe, Chuck. You're an amazing teacher and friend. Thank you, Fortune. You're so kind. And yes, this week, Carol Weber, the gal that interviewed me for my video, she let me know that she's the 13th life that's been saved by my work, and was one of the reasons why she wrote all those questions for me, because my work and my life and my perspective and what we're doing here has really helped her in her life. And that's why we're here. We're here to help one another, share with one another, and grow. And it's been an honor to be with you tonight talking about that. And I know that some of this stuff is tough. I know it's hard to hear that stuff. When I heard Joseph Campbell talk about life eating other life, and then that's the way that nature is, that life eats life on this planet, and that's the way that it is. It was hard for me. It's hard for me because I was a vegan at the time. I had cancer. I was fighting cancer, And Joe comes in, and I was a vegan. This is before I'd met my naturopathic doctors, and I had just taken on the Gerson therapy, and the Gerson therapy is vegan. And I didn't understand the bigger world I was in. So I was doing the Gerson therapy, and I see this video by Campbell, and he talks about life eating other life, and that we are to accord this. We aren't to celebrate death in the sense of, a ritual and empowering death. We're to celebrate the from life comes death. And the fact that in order for there to be life, there must be death. And this is the way that we are. This is the way that nature is. This is the way that the world is. And this is a beautiful thing that we are to integrate and honor, not exploit and pervert. And the controlling agencies, the ruling agencies, have exploited this and have perverted it. Do you see? And this has caused there to be great turmoil in this society. And we have to change our perspective. And that's what happens when I saw Dr. Campbell talk about this. And then I went and met with my naturopathic doctor, the first one. And she said, Chuck, you need to know, you need to start eating a balanced diet. You need to start eating organic animal meats and organic vegetables and organic. You need to have a wide variety. This will provide for you the amino acids that you need, the proteins that you need to build your body back so that you can fight cancer. And you're compromising that with your enzyme load when you're a vegan. It doesn't work for you. That might work for someone else. It doesn't work for you. Veganism does not work for you, Chuck. That's what I heard from my naturopathic doctors. And so I changed. And this is what we're doing here on Saturday nights. This is what we're doing. We are awakening people to deeper principles so they leave the anxieties insisted by the local authorities that are trying to convince you that something's wrong with you, that are trying to convince you that something just inherently is wrong with you, inherently is wrong with the world, and it's got to be fixed. Do you see? We have to transcend those ideas, those perversions of the world that come out of the ruling agencies. I love you guys. I will see you next week. We will cover this even further. We'll go further into Dr. Campbell's work, and I will play the postlude I made for today as the prelude as a postlude. Okay? Love you guys. I'll see you later. The comments have been incredible. Thank you, Max. I appreciate that, friend. Thank you. Thank you, Intrepid Me. I appreciate that. Thank you. I know I had some tough things to say tonight. Watch it back. You'll see. You'll see. You're amazing. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, right on. Right on. Big time. Thank you, Fortune. Love you too, sweet. You're welcome. You're welcome, Thomas. You're welcome. You're welcome. Did you talk? Thank you, everyone. Where did that go? Here. Did you talk? Thank you, everyone. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Sincerely. You're welcome, guys. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, we'll see you next time. We'll pray the post. So here we go. See you next time. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.
DMT is something we make in our own body. It's an endogenous chemical.
Has it changed your perception of what reality really is?
100%. Yeah. It's so much more real than this reality. It's like, it's so ineffable. There are no words that can describe it, but it's 1,000, maybe 1,000,000 times more real than this, in such a way that just coming back to this feels like everything is kind of claymation for a little while.
Claymation.
Or just fake, like a cartoon of some kind. It's just really low resolution. And I come back with no certainty about anything. And I think everybody comes back with that lack of certainty. You're not coming back and be like, I saw this exact thing and here's what it means and here's how the universe is created and all of that. But you go up there and you come back and you're like, something about this plane doesn't feel real anymore. And that is a permanent shift that's hard for some people to make. And you can't unsee that you were kind of able to poke your head out of the side door of the Truman Show and look out backstage for a little while.
So has it made you believe that this isn't real? This reality that we're living in now is not real?
We'd have to define real. But how would you define real?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
You
that's
can
why I
see
paused.
it, you can touch it, you can measure it, you can taste it, smell it. Would that be real?
Do you think we're living in a simulation?
Then we'd have to define simulation. Because I think every society has this hubris of the universe is whatever's cool to us right now. Electricity came out, the universe was energy. Industrial Revolution came out, the whole universe was a giant machine. And right now everybody says, oh, that we just discovered computers, the universe must be a computer. It's like the hubris of every generation. What I mean by simulation, I think, like, is it rendered in some way by something? I study this stuff all day, every day of my life. And I think that the more discoveries we have in particle physics and quantum mechanics, the more they're proving the Hermetic principles right.
What's that?
These are the 7 ancient principles of this guy named Hermes Trismegistus, also known as Thoth, like an Egyptian guy. They're confused about his name. But he's like, he wrote these first 2 principles are the most important. The first one is all is mind.
All is mind.
All is mind. The all is mind. The universe is mental. And then the second one is as above, so below. And here's how I explained this to my son a couple of days ago. I said, have you ever had a dream where there's like a building in the dream? Maybe there's a house in front of you. And what are you looking at the house with? And he's like, well, my eyes. I said, why? Which eyes are they? Are they your eyes that you're seeing the house with? And he said, no, because you're imagining your own set of eyes to see the house with in your dream. Your eyes aren't there. Your body isn't there. So you're imagining the whole body and the world. And I said, what's the distance between you and that house in your dream? And he said, 30 feet. I said, what is the air made out of between you and the house? And he said, air. And I said, you have air in your dreams? Is it real air? And he said, no, it's my brain. And I said, so is there a distance between you and the house? He said, no. What's the house made out of? Me. What's the air made out of? Me. The entire thing is me. The ground I'm standing on, the house, the clouds in the sky. So in a dream, you can verifiably prove that something is real. You can test it, you can touch it, and all of that. And the perception of it is very much real. So the theory now, and I don't have any certainty about this, but one interesting theory that I've heard from many different neuroscientists is like, if we look at as above, so below, like a universe spins like a DNA double helix. You can zoom in on a human eyeball and it looks the same as a nebula. And what if dreams are this level 1, and this is like level 2 of that, where we're hallucinating distance. We're hallucinating. And I think that whatever the case is, I have no idea. I have no theories about it myself. But whatever the case is, I do think that separation is the greatest lie ever told to the entire world. Of like you are separate from that person. Like this, you are separate from this. And how people say, I need to go spend time in nature. Like, you are nature. Like that's part of who you are. You're made out of that stuff. You're made out of that dirt. So I think the illusion of separation is the one thing that I think will help a lot of people. And that's why psychedelics can really just rewire somebody's brain so fast. It just deletes that separation.